because it's 9 o'clock when I say it's 9 o'clock. And if you haven't learned that yet, you're on the wrong show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl 78. The continuation of, the finishing of, the culmination of the Cool Wall of Blood Bowl 2026, which will be just that snappily titled to get all that lovely clickbait on YouTube. So we're halfway there. We are living on a prayer. But if you take my hand, we will make it, I swear. Because I have three lovely people with me, and their opinions are almost as good as mine in terms of what is hip and what is happening in Blood Bowl right now. So after the huge runaway success that was part one of the wall, we look forward to bringing you our verdicts on the rest of Blood Bowl. So let's say hello. I'm sure you remember them all. It wasn't that long ago, so unless you've had some form of traumatic head injury or are an Xbox player, then these people are going to be someone that you can remember because it was only a week. Firstly, directly above me, particularly if I turn off the wall stream right now, directly above me and returning once again one of my favourite humans in Blood Bowl, I should definitely state that, is the lovely Hargrim. Hello, Hargrim.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be back again.
How was your Blood Bowling week? Anything of note happen? And I hear you're hungover, which frankly is a shame for us all.
I'm just hungover. I have done no Blood Bowling. All of my Blood Bowl energy is going into prepping for Thrud, which is next weekend, which I'm really, really excited for, as always.
Yeah, in a new feature, I do think we should recap the weekly news on this One World, One Blood Bowl. So this week in Blood Bowl, nothing happened really. Slytherin next came on and said that all the things expected for Blood Bowl 3 were still expected, but slightly further off. So that's nice. That was it really. Other than that, we all just got on with our lives. Breakmonker, how was your life this week? Any Blood Bowl happening? Anything exciting in your world?
Yeah. Good evening, and hello to everyone. I was at a one-day at Surf Bowl in Whitley Bay yesterday, and I got loads of grief for basically hating on snotlings. So that was good fun. So shout out to James.
Correctly adjudging snotlings as not cool. They're quite good.
I agree with
models,
that.
but they're just not cool.
I mean, he literally tried to bribe the organizer with his snotling team so he could play me. So that was good fun.
Well, welcome to the notoriety, nay fame, that is being on One World, One Blood Bowl and daring to have an opinion. Long may that sort of thing continue. Hexbaron, how has your week been?
Hello. Been all right. Blood Bowl last week, Blood Bowl next week once again, just like Hargrim, also at Thrud. Weekend with the family this week. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Thrud at the weekend. Apparently I've agreed to play sevens, so at some point I best think about that, but not too quickly because sevens.
I think the only time I've done the Thrud Bowl sevens, I turned up at Stock and went, there's a thing happening. I'll join in. Yeah,
I mean, I've got to be there early because I'm staying in an Airbnb with a couple of guys that help organise it. Plus, it suits the way my weekend plans to sort of be there most of Friday afternoon. So if I'm hanging around, I may as well play sevens. It's literally that high on my priority list. If I'm hanging around, I may as well play sevens. In the comments, if you care, by the way, particularly on YouTube, where any comment is good, even if it's hate. If you care, someone has suggested to me that I should do an episode on the Blood Bowl variants. So Beach Bowl, Gutter Bowl, sevens, apparently Aussie sevens, which is different to sevens. And there's probably
what are those, PC? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Things that aren't Blood Bowl, that Blood Bowl people do for reasons that aren't entirely clear to me. So perhaps I should pretend to care and ask some of them about that. So if you think that would be an interesting episode, I suppose I could be talked into it if enough people think it sounds interesting. But for now, let's get on with what we're here to do, which is to recap and finish the Blood Bowl Cool Wall. If you're not excited, well, I don't blame you, because frankly, it's very hard to get excited about Blood Bowl. But there we are. Now, hang on. That's not the screen I want to be sharing, is it? That's why. That's what's happened there. This will all get sorted out. If you're listening and not watching on YouTube, everything is fine, and I definitely haven't made a mistake. If you're watching on YouTube,
everything's fine.
We might edit this bit out, and we might not. There we are. That's what we wanted to see, the Blood Bowl Cool Wall. So we'll pull it front and centre for those on YouTube, but for those listening, we will also recap. We decided that Elon Musk was the least cool thing on the planet right now, and right down in the Elon Musk level, we have put dwarves, snotlings, and Nurgle. Dwarves mainly because they're sad, snotlings and Nurgle because they're just not fun and not cool, and no one has a cool time playing them or facing them. And if you don't agree, I'm sad for you, but in time you'll realise you're wrong, and we were right all along. In Uncool, we have Amazon, Chaos Chosen, and Skaven. we just felt they weren't bringing enough, any of them, to really make it into even the mildly okay waters of Tepid. Speaking of which, there we placed basically the humans. So humans are there with Imperial Nobility and Bretonnians. Just nothing there that we felt was either cool or uncool. Really a 6-7 kind of a place. Cool. We liked Black Orcs. We thought Chaos Renegades were cool. Dark Elves, interestingly, have risen from being deeply uncool to quite cool now. So that was a surprise to me. Ogres, of course, are cool. Everyone knows that. That's unarguable. Interesting, in Sub-Zero, we did have Elven Union upsetting Hexbaron, who was publicly wrong by stating that Dark Elves were the coolest elves right now. So we all laughed at him and then corrected him. And also Chaos Dwarves have made it into Sub-Zero, despite their brittleness and somewhat limited ability to actually do Blood Bowl. We liked the team design, we liked the variety they brought, and how they were very much back to being an interesting build, having been a very much a claw pommy load of old nonsense in the last time they were around in Blood Bowl. Anyone got any problems with that? Anyone feel any of that was wrong?
Not at all.
Good.
Everything is fine.
Interestingly, you're correct. Always a good place to be. Breakmonker, have you got over the fact that Skaven are, I think, too high and you thought too low?
No, I think I'm going to start a petition, actually. And you forgot to mention the hats for the Chaos Dwarves.
We did. We liked the hats, even though I don't personally like the hats. We do think hats make them cool. Hexbaron, are you with us? You're fading in and out. I know why. It's because it's his in-laws and he has to keep them happy. He's back.
You're muted at the moment.
Visibly, and we can't hear him.
Yeah.
Hello?
Something might have happened.
Yeah,
There
no,
we go.
we can hear you again. That's wonderful.
Brilliant. The camera disappeared. Not sure why.
Have they got an avocado bathroom, your in-laws?
No. It's grey and normal.
But with some nice accented blue, that's fine. They're clearly not, they're not at the flowered wallpaper stage yet, so that's to be celebrated.
No, it's nice.
Right, enough messing around. We've already killed 10 minutes of everyone's lives not talking about the thing we're here to talk about. So we were going alphabetically, and then we got bored of that, and we leapt around a bit, and that was fun. So I'm just going to pick something at random, which I know is going to be a nice, easy starter for us. So we're not going to start with alphabetical. We're actually going to go straight in, because I'm going to pick out lizard men. Now, I think that's something we have some strong experience of in the panel tonight. So let's start with Hexbaron. Lizard men, are they cool?
So, I think that most people will think that. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Your
You can hear
camera
me.
just
My camera-
decided to die again, though.
Camera disappeared again. I think that people will think that lizards are not cool,
Yes.
but
I agree
think-
that people will think that.
yeah, I don't think that they're necessarily really cool. I don't think they're necessarily Sub-Zero. And so for reference, I've been playing a lot of lizards in the new rules. I took them to Home Nations as well.
For reference, you also played a lot of lizards in the old rules, didn't you?
I didn't play any lizards in the old rules.
Oh, okay.
No, I picked them up for the first time.
You waited for Juggernaut.
In 2025 rules, and I've played a lot of them. I think that they've got cooler with Juggernaut, and I think that
Can't
they
disagree
get a lot
with
of
that.
stick for being very boring because they only have skinks and sauruses, and they're quite good at what they do. But I think what makes them a little bit cooler is that they're quite an asymmetric team compared to most teams. They have no strength 3 pieces at all. They have strength 2 and strength 4, and I think that makes
Quite
it more
similar to
interesting.
Black Orcs, though, isn't it? Who have
Kind of similar to Black Orcs, and Black Orcs are cool.
Black
Have
Orcs
you,
are
have you
very good.
cancelled the Croxagore? Has he just cancelled?
Yeah, we're not talking about him, apparently.
Is he in Stacey of the Lisbon team?
Yeah, did he touch
think
you
Crocs are
inappropriately
pretty
with his
cool.
tail?
They're like ogres, but they have prehensile tail.
Allegedly.
So I think Crocs scores were right, but I think that the whole point being there's no strength 3 pieces. They're much more asymmetrical than that, with their strength 4 and 5 pieces and the strength 2 pieces, and I think that makes them a bit more interesting than uncool. I would happily settle for tepid, even if I think they're cool. But
You've
I
set
think
your
they're
bar
not.
very low, haven't you? You realise there's no saving them from drowning, but at least maybe we won't pull them out of the water and shoot them afterwards. That's
I'll be really hard pressed to argue that they're Sub-Zero.
well, good, because I definitely know they're not.
Yeah.
Hargrim, how are you feeling about lizards?
Lizards are an interesting one because I find them
Are they, though?
rule design wise, kind of boring. Because there's very little variance in what you do with them. It's not like Black Orcs that can take a few different skills and be functional. It's like you just have to give them block. Like a Saurus without block is a bad Saurus, as Jakra, one of the Danish coaches, usually says. However,
Does he not say more interesting things than that? Like if you just open the door as his first greeting, hi, cool, lizards without block are rubbish, aren't they? Is it?
yeah, pretty much. No, I will say though, I really like a lot of the sculpts for the miniatures out there. Like there's some really, really cool teams and team designs.
There are, though they're starting from quite a high bar, because I like the games don't workshop ones.
You can get an entire team of dinosaurs. Like, what's not to love?
Yeah. They do have dinosaur appeal, and whilst we did say that being on a 4-year-old's lunchbox is bad for any team, except anything with dinosaurs will just never stop being not super cool, but kind of cool. Breakmonker, exactly. You're old. Do you agree? Old fossilized stuff. Cool.
Prehistoric, I would say, yeah. Dinosaurs, the kids' lunchbox argument is actually quite strong here. It's what very young children really, really like, dinosaurs, isn't it? And there are the odd people, a couple of friends of mine included, who just continue with that. But they're not very... That's not the cool part, right? They're cool people, but they're not that's not the cool part. So the dinosaurs...
You're saying they're not cool people that you pretend are cool people because they're still into dinosaurs? Is it like being into heavy metal over 35? Is it just not socially acceptable to you?
Well, yeah. Aye. But I guess my argument is actually quite similar to these two as well. That they are just a bit vanilla and a bit one-dimensional. So, like when you sit down the first time I'm playing lizards, you don't think, "Oh, that's cool, great choice, cool choice." You've got some creativity going on here. It's just going to be my Saurus are just going to smash you, and that's
I think that's a very good point. I have literally never sat and faced lizards and thought, "Oh, I wonder how he's going to do this." The minute you sit down, you go, "Oh, I know exactly how they're going to do this." Then because they're lizards.
Yeah, it's like how well will they do it is the only question, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That does.
I do think the jugs thing does change it up a little bit. You can do more things. Someone might take a frenzy Saurus now. Do you take one, Hex? I don't know.
I took one to Home Nations, but I'm toying with Wrestle or Frenzy or Tackle.
But like that changes it up a little bit. There's room for a tiny bit more creativity, but not into the cool category. I think their kind of definition of vanillaness, I'd go tepid.
I always quite like it when my opponent has a tackle Saurus, even if I'm elves, to be honest, because it's a Saurus I can hit with a block piece and have a really good chance of downing. I can tie it up on a non-dodging piece, and then they're trying to solve that and get it back active. Or they're trying to keep it back and safe to use it at a key time, and then it's one less in the wall. A frenzy one, I know it's even worse against elves because it'll get picked on like crazy or put into terrible positions. But a frenzy jugs is so useful against some of the other bash matchups in the current meta. Of the two, if you can't get 6 block, and if you can, you should probably still do that, tedious as it is. But of the two, that tends to be why I would favour Frenzy, even though Tackle is a better answer to elves than anything lizards have, which is terrible answers to elves. Even the Croc's tail is just not as good as people think it is. The Croc's is very cool, though, isn't it, as a big guy?
Oh, yeah.
Just objectively on his own. If we have a cool big guys competition, he'd be up there. You don't agree, Breakmonker? Anyway, your face doesn't lie. Your hips do, but your face
I like the
doesn't.
ogres. I like the dumb kind of blunt instrument aspect of them. So I think they might win for me. But
why not have an ogre that's slightly faster and has a tail?
But he's not an ogre. He doesn't embody that kind of
True.
Brutality.
He does embody a big dinosaur feel. He is a big dumb dinosaur.
They do come with big dinosaur energy, and I do think dinosaur energy helps. It really gives them a nice strong theme. But now that you've mentioned it, I have seen a lot of younger players gravitating towards Lizardmen teams. And not just, obviously, Hexbaron, who is our sample of a post-teenager here.
Only just.
Yeah, wow, shush. I have shoes older than you. Jesus. But I do think they're attractive to younger people. So, and shoes I still wear. That's the sad thing. They're definitely not Sub-Zero, are they? But
No,
I also think that they're not Elon Musk. They're not deeply uncool. They have a certain something. I mean, I'm feeling kind of tepid about them personally. Does anyone think I'm mad?
No, not really. I will say there is a saving grace to Lizardman as well, especially when we talk about the younger players coming in, gravitating towards Lizard, is that it helps keep the game alive
Absolutely.
and getting, young people engaged with our hobby.
They are also, I mean, I'm not sure they're a great learning team. I think that's a different conversation. But in terms of ease of use, they are very, very easy to understand. See these big ones, they're strength 4, they hit things. They can also move quite quick and have good armor. See these little ones, they're quick, they have terrible armor, but they can sometimes dodge and pick things up. That's not that hard to sort of grasp and start using. So I don't think they're that intricate. And that's kind of cool, although intricate can be cool in other ways. So yeah, I can see some appeal there. I can't see any reason to raise them any higher than tepid though. There's nothing that I look at and think cool, because
as much as
the playstyle's just so one-dimensional.
As much as I'd like for them cool, as much as I think they're cool, I agree. I think tepid is probably the right place for them.
Definitely tepid.
Okay, so we have decided Lizardmen, our first casualty of the night. They bulk up the tepid, so we have a non-human in there, which I think is good news. So now let's go alphabetical. Let's talk gnomes.
I have strong opinions on this. Can I go?
Yeah, go on then. Why not? Gnomes.
Okay. So I just want to dive into a little story that I've got. So you're walking down some residential street in Bognor Regis, right? Because that's where all the residential bungalows are. Okay.
Yep.
And you walk past a little bungalow which is all dilapidated, and it's got a couple of garden gnomes out the front. I challenge anyone to just go out there and say, do you know what, that house is cool. So by extension, straight into Elon Musk. Done.
Oh, that's very, very harsh. I mean, I'm going to counter slightly, which is if they had a collection of interesting gnomes, at least one of which would have to be bearing their arse, and we've all seen that now. And then one have to be a fisherman, or else it just doesn't count. If there was also 2 woodland foxes sort of making a nest in the corner, one of which was doing a shit, and a couple of badgers or a goose rocking around in that garden, I'm not sure I'd say it was cool, but it would draw my attention. I'd look twice.
I mean, but you're not gonna. This is the cool wall, right? It's not the
yeah,
interesting
it's true.
wall.
It's true.
This is the
that
cool.
Is true.
This is like that house. That's a cool house. You'd be like, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be near that. I don't want to be seen in front of that house. So
I find it pretty cool that I can have an entire zoo in a Blood Bowl team. I find that pretty cool.
Is it the long dreamt of Animal Crossing Blood Bowl hybrid?
Yes, please.
That does
give
it
to
for
me.
you. Okay.
Yeah, I especially talking about animals. The Grebo gnome team has a Beastmaster that has like 1 million different animals. Like there's a duck, there's a chicken, there's a badger somewhere there as well. I find that so cool.
It's goose or badger. Don't you go start. We've got enough. We don't need new animals invented for Blood Bowl. I think I worked out. I don't know how many you can get on the pitch in total anymore, but with geese, badgers, foxes, transforming someone into a toad, hiring, Rumbelow or the woman that sits, what's her name, that sits on the...
You've got your beard.
Rowana.
Rowana, the forest foot. It's whether you count Griff's eagle. I mean, it's there visibly, but it has no stats yet. Obviously, the next designer will, like the Skaven, like the little tiny knife on Gutter Runners that has now entered into the rules in many ways. No doubt eventually we get Griff's eagles stats. I look forward to the day. And of course you can also have squirrels, which I do love. So are they cool? I mean, Animal Crossing is not cool. I hate to break this to you. And the animalisation of Blood Bowl, I have problems with it. Maybe I'm old. And I know, I've long said that in a game where goblins can run around with chainsaws, knocking people out when they attack with a chainsaw, realism really isn't at the top of my list, but it bugs me that wolves are strength 2. That foxes are strength 2, where beer boars are strength 1. Now, there's a nice urban fox that lives outside my house in London, and he's cool as anything and hard as nails. But he's definitely not... I've seen a wild boar, and he couldn't take it on. Not at all. So that's quite uncool that they've got these super-powered foxes. to me, even though foxes are kind of cool. But
I
come on,
will say
someone
there's also-
speak up for
I'm gonna-
gnomes. You're young, Hexbaron,
I'm
surely.
gonna add fuel to the fire, because in the lore, gnomes hate halflings and vice versa.
Yes.
So it's great to see this internal stunty hatred from all of the stunty coaches, all the halfling players going, "Oh, I hate gnomes," and then the gnome players going, "I hate halflings," and then they just get into one big scrap, and we can all just sit with our popcorn and, watch old men fight.
Well, halflings can obviously get in the bin, but I haven't actually noticed stunty coaches doing that. They have a lot of sympathy for each other rather than any enmity. And of course, the stars do seem to play for each other. So, gnomes, Hexbaron, save me. Say something nice about gnomes.
So my feeling on gnomes, I think that they have done a really good job of embodying what you might feel like a gnome team would be like. The way that they've got jump up and wrestle, they pop up, they disappear. They've got a host of interesting animals. They've got the woodland foxes and they've got the badgers and geese. I think that's reasonably cool. I think they kind of play like you would imagine them to play. But I think they have one of the best single pieces on a GW kit, which is the teeny tiny gosling running away with someone's sock. And it is like probably one of the best pieces that GW have ever made.
Okay. But
So I think that's pretty cool.
Is it? Yeah, is it though? I mean, it's a reasonable argument. There are some points there.
I'll help you, PC.
Okay.
No, it's not cool. It's not cool. That's not cool. It's like a goose with a sock. It's like, okay. We're playing Blood Bowl.
I think there's some very cool things about gnomes. I do actually think it's super cool that they launched a stunty team that instantly fit in with the other stunty teams, did something different, had its own shtick, had nice models that people that wanted to paint them wanted to paint. I think that's cool. So I think in terms of a release, in terms of how they fit within the meta, that's pretty cool. I think the actual play style with the all jump up, all wrestle, annoying as hell as I find it, and the foxes, which just should be strength 1, other than that, they're fine. And the fact they get guard on the roster, which is amazing, but obviously they're stunty. All of that's kind of cool. And the animals are fun and they are interesting, but that isn't cool, is it? It's fun and interesting. And this is the cool wall, not the have you designed a fun and interesting team that fits well in the meta wall, which isn't a very snappy title, but maybe we should do that one day, because some teams really don't. But yeah, looking at you, Snotlings, I just don't think they can be thought of as cool. They're gnomes, for God's sake. And gnomes are not cool, are they? Even if they're quite fun.
They're not Elon Musk, though. I think
they're definitely not Elon Musk. They've got some things about them that are at least interesting. So I guess to me, it's whether they're tepid or whether they're slightly uncool. I think if they're slightly uncool, they're at the top end of slightly uncool.
I would say the bottom end of tepid, if anything.
I think if someone sat down against me playing gnomes and choosing gnomes of all the stunty teams,
yeah,
I wouldn't think it was uncool.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I wouldn't necessarily think it's cool. I'd be like, okay, it's gnomes. That's kind of like of all the stunty choices, it's all right.
Yeah, even with Maple Highgrove, who I don't think is quite as good as people think. So I don't even think there's a star there that I'm desperately worried about. Breakmonker, we're thinking tepid. We're thinking they're kind of okay as a stunty team.
I'm going to have to stick to my guns. You know, like that when I was thinking about this whole thing, prepping, that was the strongest thing that came to my mind. It's like seeing garden gnomes in real life is where this has spawned from, and I use the word spawned, you know, very specifically because it's not a great idea.
I think it definitely stops them from the top 2. I think you're right there. Just bringing that whole garden gnome.
I'm happy
concept.
to meet you in the middle on like uncool. I can, and do you know what? They are Skaven are so much cooler than gnomes.
No, they're definitely not. No, if you're using that as a benchmark, they're definitely above Skaven. So that's it. You've talked me into they can't go in uncool because Skaven are there. Therefore, they are tepid. There we are. Well done.
I mean, I would argue that I think nobility are way cooler than gnomes as well. So.
I do think nobility are a bit cooler than gnomes. I think gnomes might be down the bottom end of tepid.
It's definitely bottom end of tepid or top end of uncool. I think that's.
But like you said, someone's never sat opposite me and said I'm coaching gnomes, and I've thought, oh, cool. but I've also never thought, oh man, that's really uncool. So I kind of think they might be in the right place, and that Breakmonker's wrong. But that's fine. Like if I'm going to cut a deep reference, every gang needs its James May, the voice who speaks out against reason, common sense, logic, and cool. And if that's your role tonight, then fair enough. By way of recompense, let's pick something else that you want to talk about, and let's see if we can agree with you or if you're wrong again.
That was the thing I wanted to talk about. So
okay, so we'll move on.
Toys out the pram. Out the pram. Go
fine. Hargrim, let's keep you awake. Pick a race for me that we haven't done.
We've done gnomes. I think we should stick to the stunty category for now. Let's talk about halflings.
Okay. That one's going to be incredibly easy. Let's put halflings under the gun. What do you want to say about halflings?
Halflings are obviously the greatest stunty race in existence. And the reason is the people that play them, shout out to Fling Nation, are fucking great. They can do what they want to do. Plus, they're hobbits. For God's sake, they're hobbits. And who doesn't like a good hobbit?
Should I just mute him or should I kick him? Sorry. They are hobbits. And as we were discussing, Samwise Gamgee is one of the greatest heroes in all of fiction. The ultimate friend. But we're talking halflings, and halflings are awful. So I'm not persuaded.
They have a saving grace with the saucepan helmet, right?
They do. Saucepan helmet is cool as fuck.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool as fuck, yeah.
Better or worse than a goose with a sock, though.
Definitely better, 100%. Right. Let's just take this to the real world. American football, right? All guys streaming out onto the pitch. One lad goes out there with a saucepan on his head. What are you going to do to that guy? You're cool, or are you uncool?
I mean, you're definitely cool because you can also use it as a weapon and just take it off and whack someone on the head.
It's cool.
It's so far through uncool, it absolutely comes out the tunnel and is just super cool.
It's kind of water boy-esque.
It's gone round the circle.
I think halflings don't try to be cool, and I think that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool to not try and be cool. That's unarguable. There's a good logic.
No halfling player has picked halflings because they think they're a tournament-winning cool race or anything.
Now you're on shaky ground, though. Because I agree. There's a lot of cool things about halflings. Hobbits are essentially quite cool, not super cool, but quite cool. Having two trees, treemen are cool. That is cool. Saucepan helmets, very, very cool. The fact they're not very good at Blood Bowl is quite cool. The fact that even their star, Puggy, is terrible, that's cool. The Blood Bowl 3 fad lately in their arena format, where you can have two proper stars, so you can have Zara and Zug, that kind of makes them a bit uncool, but it's a very niche area, so we're not seeing that in a lot of tournaments. And actually, they've lost access to some of the better stars, which made them very uncool in Season 2. The problem we've got is when you talk about people... Yeah, they really were. When you talk about people selecting halflings, not thinking, oh, this is a championship-winning team, everyone will think it's super cool and I'm Rocky Tough, it's almost the opposite. I have said this before, and it is a niche view. I find halfling coaches, just other than rat coaches, some of the worst people in the world. They have deliberately picked a team where if they win, they can go, ha ha ha, you lost to halflings. And if they lose, they can go, well, of course I lost, it's halflings. So they have put themselves in that perfect position of always having the moral high ground. And I think that's horrific. And of course, then also not goblins, which cost them a huge amount of points because goblins are incredibly cool. So I hate halflings with a passion, and I just can't see how they're going to do well tonight. So how can you talk me out of that? It's the people that coach halflings that hold them back.
There's the other thing as well. Oh, go on.
I agree with PC, and I think that the other thing I don't like about halflings as well is that they're fundamentally pretty rubbish at Blood Bowl, and one of their main line of trying to be vaguely good at Blood Bowl revolves around taking a halfling master chef, taking all your rerolls, and stopping you playing Blood Bowl.
Yeah, that isn't cool, is it?
You can't do anything risky, and that's like if Nurgle is stopping you playing Blood Bowl, and that's not very cool. Like I just think like trying to play a game of Blood Bowl where you're like, oh, I've got 7 rerolls and you've got none it's not very cool.
Yeah, but Master Chefs are gambling. Like you're gambling
Yeah.
with the fact that you're taking rerolls away, or you could get unlucky. You could lose. Like I could get lucky as the guy playing opposite the Flings, and I could lose none of my rerolls, and I'd be fine. I could also be unlucky and lose all my rerolls. Or there's some middle ground, obviously. But like I find the Master Chef to be fine because it's a gamble. You're essentially just gambling with rerolls.
Well, if we're talking about
I think-
gambling, I think it's very important we do a quick PSA. Remember, kids, when the fun stops, it's because you're playing Gangster. So there we are. A little. I do think talking about gambling is obviously a high risk behaviour. It is a gamble playing Halfling, but just not much of one if you win or lose. Because, like I said, you can win morally any way. Break.
I think the other point is that there'll be a lot of people out there with some serious PTSD playing against halflings at some point when they used to rock up with Griffin Morg and like just halflings and their stars. There's a lot of people who went, "Oh, that wasn't a fun game." And it was halflings that brought that to you. I think that was like that was a 2020 era thing. So like, I think that even though they've moved on from that, but it's still kind of a thing at the moment. It takes a notch off of them.
The only games I've lost to halflings were running Zug and Griff.
Yeah, I mean, they still have that star caddy worry, don't they? All the time.
Unfortunately, that's just a reality with some teams. Like Bretonians are basically a star caddy team as well.
Yeah.
Makes them not very cool.
Yeah, they certainly aren't very cool. Look, I think it's very easy here. They're not Elon Musk. Because ultimately they've got trees, they are halflings, they do have ridiculous helmets, I like the sculpts. And you're never going to think, oh man, that's really uncool, unless you're using them as a caddy for 2 stars. But they're not cool. They're not cool. And I think they lose a point for some of the people that coach them. So I'm torn between tepid and uncool. I could be talked into tepid, but I just don't think they're as cool as gnomes.
I will settle for tepid, even though they're definitely the best stunties.
Right?
If they're tepid, they're all even more on the border than gnomes in my opinion. I think gnomes have so much more interest and flavour that I think that wherever halflings are, I think gnomes are a
break. And I'm sort of thinking uncool anyway, which sort of means it doesn't matter what you think because I get the casting vote. But what do you think?
I agree.
Good. Uncool they are. There we are. The verdict is in. If you're coaching halflings, just be aware.
Slander. The sheer slander.
You're not cool, even if you think you are. We know what you're doing. We know why you did it. So, yes, halflings, not cool. Let's move on. Who hasn't picked one tonight and has something they urgently want to talk about?
Do you want one that I think is cool or one that I think is uncool?
I don't want you to give it away until we've had it put before the masses.
I think that Necro are pretty cool.
Okay, so ignore that and do what you want anyway. So Necro, we're talking Necro. Are they cool though?
I think so. I think they've got an interesting variety of stuff. The GW sculpts are. I love the GW sculpts. I think they're like a really nice combination of slightly goofy but also really cool, interesting sculpts. I think they've got a really interesting mix of positionals. I think especially with the wraiths now having they've got block and sidestep, but then they also have no hands. I think gives them a really interesting dynamic. I think that you've got this mix of move 4 pieces and move 8 pieces and strength 3 and 4. I think there's loads of interesting stuff you can do, and they're one of the few teams that you can just buy one box from GW and you've got everything you need, which is surprisingly hard to do nowadays.
No, but surely season 3 was all about just coach what's in the box. They promised. They said that.
But wow. I genuinely think that if opponent ever sits down with Necro, whether they're a new coach or an experienced coach, and they pull out Necro, I think that's a pretty cool team.
I have to agree.
I don't disagree with all that you've said, but I do disagree with a large amount of it, which is kind of interesting because I'm still undecided. I've got to start with the Games Workshop sculpts because they are terrible. They're genuinely awful. Now, look, you may still watch Scooby-Doo. I still do, ironically, occasionally. Scrappy Doo ruined it for all of us. You know, those of us that were there know. It's been dead ever since. But the idea that we have a Blood Bowl team where people are dressed up like characters from Scooby-Doo just doesn't appeal to me. I'm no purist. I'll coach against Lego figures and be quite happy. But when some of them are looking like they're playing Blood Bowl and the other one's got a pumpkin for a head, I don't go, oh, isn't that cool? I go, oh, isn't that shit? And then when they invent a Wraith, which is a great positional, a really interesting idea, really interesting piece, and the word Wraith, if you're any kind of nerd, conjures up so many images in your head, particularly if you've read Lord of the Rings, you know, Nazgul, and just the fear they brought to you as a hopefully child when you read that for the first time. The Wraiths we've seen in any other media are just terrifying. You know, think of something with just a ghost face or just a skeletal image there and a huge cowl and no legs and floating and deathly. And what do? We get someone dressed up in a sheet smelling of Benson and Hedges on their way to a shit fancy dress party. It's such a huge letdown. And I will never get tired of saying how terrible that sculpt is.
But PC, right? You are bashing the minis, right? If you look at some of the third party type sculpts, there's some really great
I genuinely think a mole from a third party company got to design the Necromantic for Games Workshop and thought, right, how do I screw them over so they never sell?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. But you know, so where I'm coming from this is, and talking about cancel culture again as well. Michael Jackson's Thriller. Okay. That was a great song.
It was a great song.
The music video was outstanding, and you know, really set the bar for me as a very young lad. So that was a cool video and a really cool concept.
It was a cool video.
And I think the Necromantic team's just basically that. So when I think Necromantic, I think, you know, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and therefore at the time, without cancelling him too much, it's pretty cool. I think it's cool. Necro are cool.
You do make a good point. However, mild counter. I used to play AD&D as a child. I have talked about this on the podcast before. And I used to play as a paladin. And to me, dead things are just wrong. They're wrong and bad. And you ought not to be messing with things that are dead. And people that just love Necromantic and nothing else, they'll end up like doing bad things. My mum said so. And she can't be wrong, surely.
Is she cool?
She's not very cool, no. She's lovely, but she's not very cool. That's a fair counter. I think there's a lot of cool things. I mean, in passing, on my drive-by on the appalling, the worst they've done, Necromantic team from Games Workshop, I did admit that Wraiths are super cool. A really interesting piece and a really interesting addition to Blood Bowl. Golems are fine. The fact that Americans call them golems really amuses me, like minotaurs, which aren't said like that by anyone in Europe, so God knows where the Americans came up with that from. So anything that Americans get wrong, I always find quite fun. That's always quite cool to have things like that around. So yeah, there's some cool things about Necro, but lately, haven't we all been to just one too many tournaments where Necro seem to get just a bit too much compared to other people? I'm not saying they win loads, but they do seem to be sort of flavour of the month.
They're very hard to balance. They're very hard to balance. Because if you give them just slightly too much, they become very, very good. If you give them slightly too little, it's just useless. And it's really, really hard to find that sweet spot. Unless, and I'm going to praise the rule set we made for Peer Bowl last year, the grid system. Once you pop everything in a grid, it becomes so much easier to balance everything.
Grids do seem to be coming into vogue, I have to say, yeah.
Grids are great. And I think if more people started using a grid tiering system or a matrix tiering system, Necro become a lot easier to balance. And that sort of solves that issue on its own.
Look, I do think they're kind of cool. I'm not particularly good with Necro. That doesn't bother me in this rating at all. But werewolves are inherently still quite cool, despite the werewolf romantasy phase that the world, for some reason, had to go through. Now that we've all stopped wanting to have sex with werewolves, can't we get back to having them sort of vaguely dangerous and cool again? I suppose they were cool in a different way, but not in a way that did it for me. Golems, I think, are cool. Zombies are quite fun and always been quite cool, and they're still pleasantly shit. Watching a necromantic coach try and cope with it when one of their ball carrying options gets removed is always quite fun, so that's kind of cool. So even when they're doing well, they're never overpowered. They're always on the brink of collapse. That's always cool. I do think they're cool. I just don't think they can be Sub-Zero. And I think it's the Games Workshop sculpts. In my heart, it would be a dagger through my heart to allow those pumpkin-headed fucks at the top of this list. So it's not happening. Necromantic.
Can we clip that
going
specific
cool
phrase? Those pumpkin-headed fucks. I quite like that.
Constantly trying to create vertical content, as you know. I'm all about that. Which is why these clock in at about 2 hours. The perfect length for YouTube, where 10 minutes is the most monetizable form. But yeah, that could definitely be a vertical. Which I don't do. That's a lie. I don't TikTok. It confuses me and slightly frightens me. I think it's time. We've done lots of good work and we've had some fun and interesting teams up. So now we should pay the price and get orcs done. Because at some point we do have to talk about orcs. They got better in Season 3 though, didn't they? Surely they're cooler now because 4 block and 4 strong. And
if anything, they're
way
less
too
cool
many
now.
positionals was just not cool.
They're just less cool now.
too.
Less cool. Youth speaks. We'll start with Hargrim. How can they be less cool?
So, giving 2 players Mighty Blow, Thick Skull, and Taunt right off the bat is pretty good. Who would have thought? You can give one of them Pro, because you have a silly team special rule that can give things Pro. In League formats, you get extra skills or star player points for murdering stuff. Turns out you're pretty good at murdering stuff because you start with 3 Mighty Blow. So suddenly you're getting skilled up very, very quickly. In tournament play, they're frustrating as hell because suddenly you've just seen them waste 5 rerolls in a turn because they got 2 back off team captain. I plain and simply think they are a team that can do a lot of different things now. They can do more things than they used to do because of break tackle blitzers, because of Pro, because of more Mighty Blow. They're uncool. They're not fun to play against because you either get banged out or it's a draw. I don't think they're cool.
Hexbaron, you don't think they're cool?
I don't know, like whatever the most popular thing is. I don't know. You see all people wearing, half the kids these days are all wearing Crocs or something. I don't know.
You really don't
see
know.
Everyone doing the same thing.
There's a reference from the 1990s.
Well, it's apparently popular again. But like, orcs are easily the most popular race. You look at tournament stats, and they're like hundreds of games ahead of second place. I think that with more linemen in their team, they're less interesting. You've just got a bunch of generic people who are strength 3. They're not very exciting.
These are my 4 with block. These are my 4 that are strong.
I think that was more interesting than here are my 2 with block, here are my 2 that are strong, and here are 6 linemen.
So you use goblins. They're definitely cooler with goblins. I 100% attest to that.
Now I think that orcs generally are quite cool. I think they fit a sort of niche that that halflings sort of fit, of like the people who like to play orcs often are a little bit like people who like, if you get into like orcs as like a faction in whether it's fantasy or 40k, they're always a bit kooky, they're always a bit fun and interesting. But I also don't think that they embody that.
I have huge problems with the word kooky. People that say I'm kooky.
A bit different.
Never kooky. Those people, we don't need fun. Those people. They can all get in the bin with snotlings. The worst thing to ever say. Okay, hi. Hey, yeah, I've heard all about you. You'll love me. I'm kooky. No, I won't. I will hate you instantly for that introduction and forevermore. You will never get over that first impression.
Don't do a very good job of embodying that in Bloodborne.
I think that's the thing. That's the only thing that's keeping them slightly up a bit. There's a reason that they're the most played, right? Because people are drawn to that. Well, they're drawn to that, like, I'm an orc, I'm going to smash stuff. I'm going to be inherently good at Blood Bowl, regardless of the stats, because the lore, big toothsome green things. So, like, I think that is.
Are they mushrooms too? Because... I never know the lore. Okay.
They're overgrown mushrooms.
Okay. Big green mushrooms.
Well, I'm going to ignore that because I didn't even know that, and I don't need to know that. No. They're big orcs, strong things, and they're all, they're Blood Bowl. They're very Blood Bowl. They've been on the front of the box art for like multiple generations, only up till now, recently they've kind of just pushed them to a side. But orcs are like core to Blood Bowl, and that's why there's so many games played with them.
Yes,
I think they're not necessarily cool in themselves, but I think people are drawn to them because they think that the race is cool, right? So that's got to bring it up a little bit.
Do they? I mean, I thought new players just play orcs because we always tell new players play orcs. You'll learn how to play Blood Bowl well.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what a lot of people have said for a very, very long time is, oh, you're getting into Blood Bowl, are you? Buy the core box, play orcs. Done.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that pulls any weight to them being less uncool.
Also, I'm very aware that
anything...
whilst Hexbaron wants to slag off the, as we've already said, large proportion of Blood Bowl players that enjoy playing orcs, I definitely don't. I'm on their side, and I think they are cool because they're such a huge chunk of people. And it's always the majority that's cool, right?
Is it?
Nope.
Is it? Interesting. I would have thought the people who stood out and carved their own path were cooler. But...
Yeah, look, they are orcs, and orcs are inherently, I kind of agree. Even in Warhammer 40k, which I have mixed views on, most of which are that really grow up, play Blood Bowl. It's so grim dark. But at least orcs there are kind of cool, because their thing is we just grab stuff and make it out of scrap, and we don't even know how it really works, but it does. And then we hurt things. Which is so much more fun, and they seem to be enjoying their lives rather than every other race in 40k. Because it's also
40k
dark,
orc players are really, really cool because they
I think
they just embody the whole being an orc thing when you're playing against them. Like, they have a mechanic where they can call a war, and they just get some buffs. And without fail, every single 40k event I have been to, not played in, been to, an orc coach has just been screaming it at the top of their lungs. That's pretty funny, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's like the French guys and the Italian and the Spanish guys who all shout at the top of their voice in the middle of a tournament, and you go, "Oh fuck, what's happened?" And then you go, "That wasn't cool. I've had a heart attack."
I've done that once, just to sort of experience it. But I did it when armbar had procced, and I'd hurt someone due to armbar, and I felt that was worth letting the entire tournament know in a loud voice. And lots of people joined in, so that one I quite enjoyed. I thought that was quite cool. So I'm ambivalent about the shouty outness. I think sometimes it isn't cool, particularly if it's done aggressively. But if it's done in a fun way, I think that can be quite cool. Orcs, they can't be cool though, can they? Not when everyone plays them all the damn time. I do think the change in them made them slightly cooler. Because at least there's now at least I just feel there's more opportunity to do things against them. If they were played solidly before, they could just be a brick wall of awful dullness. And now they struggle a bit more to that. That said, I absolutely agree that any strength 4 player that can start with 4 skills before they've played a game of Blood Bowl, that might be quite a lot, and it might be slightly too many. And particularly as they're all quite good skills. So big uns are quietly terrifying games left, right and centre. And it means orcs, out of the box can start with 3 Mighty Blow hits, which is sort of a bit terrifying. I'm also confused. I thought if their blitzers had got tackle and the humans had got break tackle, that would be thematically more understandable to me. But they went with it the other way around, and I can see why. The humans have catchers, so perhaps they felt that was a niche or was already filled. But I liked the idea of the changes. I do like, there's a friend of mine who plays something he called Speed Orcs. So he was sort of playing that kind of build beforehand anyway, with limited numbers of the slower, expensive players. And I do think that's sort of happened to all of orcs now. So, shout out to him for being ahead of his time. But has the direction orcs gone in been cool? I'm struggling to be persuaded it is. But are they actually uncool? I mean, they're orcs. They're kind of all right. This isn't 40k, though, so I don't think they should get points for their 40k association, where they possibly are quite cool. I'm feeling a bit tepid about them. Am I wrong? I mean, no.
I would say...
Bang on.
Yeah.
But you might think so.
I think we flip-flopped enough either side to...
Yeah, anyone struggling with that?
I can settle for tepid.
Like me nowadays when it comes to sets, let's just bang it in and hope for the best. Sometimes we just need to move on. Right. So let's move on. Taunt I love. I do think Taunt is cool. But giving it to a player that's already got 3 or 4 skills, maybe that's too many. Let's talk about Norse. This should be nice and simple. They come from a cold climate. They must be cool. Everyone liked the rework, but that was some time ago. Then they got pigs, and we all went, oh, pigs. And then everyone got animals, so they weren't special anymore. I kind of think Norse are quite cool, aren't they, though? They're not overly good. They do rely a bit on bash, but, they can try some other things. The Valkyries, I think, are interesting pieces, and the Ulfs are good, strong pieces that are AG2 and don't come with too many skills, so they have a drawback in Frenzy. It's almost a nega trait. Aren't they sort of cool? They can still win, but they're not overpowered.
Hargrim. Yeah, I think they're cool.
Breakmonker.
Well, I also I agree with absolutely everything you said there actually. And on top of that, I think the theme's great. Vikings are pretty cool.
Vikings are cool.
Let's ignore the ethics. Let's just go with is it a cool theme? Yes, cool. And Wolfmen are pretty cool as well. So I think, combined with the stuff you said, I think they're cool. They're quite cool.
I mean, there are some negatives, so I'm waiting to see if anyone mentions those. Hargrim, what do you think of your Norse? I mean, your people?
I'm Danish. I have to support anything that has to do with Vikings. As a
And
historian,
bacon.
I also... And bacon, yes, obviously. We do produce the best bacon in the world.
Yep.
As a historian with focus on early medieval Scandinavia and England, I will say anything Viking related is absolutely cool. When it comes to Norse in Blood Bowl, I actually think they're one of the coolest races. Because they have this glass cannon vibe. Like, it either goes really, really well, or it goes really, really badly. They're a really well-rounded team. They have some cool miniatures out there.
They do.
I would be happy to put them in cool, but I definitely think they're a Sub-Zero for me.
Ooh, okay. That's bold. That's a lot like saying your sister's the prettiest girl in the world, though, isn't it? Because these are, remember, your DNA, or at least part of your DNA. Presumably the bit with the scrubbly beard and the tattoos, not the bit with the glasses and the good brain. Hex, what do we think about Norse?
I think they're really cool. I think one of the things I always come back to is how interesting are they as a roster. Now, they do spam block, which is maybe all the block is not very cool. But I think that they've got strength 4 pieces. I think Valkyries are really cool. I think once again we talk about starting with lots of skills, but I think they start with a really interesting mix of skills, which makes them cool. Yetis are not particularly strong as big guys, but I think that's kind of cool.
Yetis
I think they have an interesting.
Terrible. I mean, wow.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of fun. I think that's kind of.
If I ever do big guys, I don't want to do it as a tier list because we should never do the same thing again. I'd like to do a World Cup of big guys, and I expect whoever the Yeti takes on in round 1 will win comfortably because they are so terrible. I'm also a big fan that in progression leagues, if you're being matched on TV, like something like the Black Box Trophy, I think having the Yeti runs you into the sort of problems you think the Yeti will deal with, and then it won't. So just having less TV by not having the Yeti should give you an easier matchup where you find, I don't need a Yeti for this one. Yeah, and if you did, it would be terrible at it. So my advice is try and ignore the Yeti.
I also think that beer boars are pretty cool. I think they were the first of the animals to play Blood Bowl. I think that they're a really fun, interesting piece at strength 1. Their pick-me-up skill, when they were the only ones to pick me up, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of others have got it, like Rotspawn, whatever. I think that beer balls are cool. I think that Norse are really cool.
And don't get me wrong, just because I want foxes knocked down to strength 1 does not mean I think beer boars should be strength 2. I'm quite happy with them strength 1. But I do think they're very cool pieces. And they do counter the Yeti by bringing a sort of a chicness and a coolness that even gnomes didn't manage with all their many creatures. I think the beer boars are out ahead there. But can they really be Sub-Zero? I mean, that's a ballsy call. Can we really say that they are that level of cool? I do think they are cool. I think we're heading towards the top end of the chart here. But also there's drunkard, isn't there?
Who doesn't like a pig that runs around the pitch, not only just scattering around, but serves beer to people who are playing? Yeah. No wonder the Norsemen are drunk. They've got a cute pig running around serving them beer. What's not to love?
I've said this before, so very brief recap, because people that listen to the podcast have heard this rant. I'm not all about drunkenness as a comedy haha for the current build of Blood Bowl. I think it will age as poorly as sexism and racism did. The previous leanings into, because that's where the ha-has are. So when Blood Bowl started, there was a lot of racism. We've thankfully got rid of that. Then we had a huge amount of sexism. We are still getting rid of that in terms of the models, the sculpting, the noises on Blood Bowl 2. But there's still some of that. And now apparently it's fine to just say, hey, everyone's drunk while they play. Isn't that funny? Is it though? I mean, I'm not convinced it is. So I do think, for me, drunkard, I get the idea, but also it's so counterintuitive that Norse... I mean, the one thing I would give them then is I'd say that in Blizzard they don't lose one. That they're still, they only have to deal with the drunkard, and that perhaps Valkyries and Berserkers can still go for it or rush on a 2+. Because the idea that Norse in a Blizzard, particularly if it's alignment, it's 4+ to do an extra space. When these guys grew up on ice and snow, I find infuriating. But I'm quite fine with a chainsaw knocking somebody out. That's obviously completely fine. So I
bombs
just
flying everywhere, of course.
Yeah, of course, on a sports field. I hear your plea. I don't think they're far off Sub-Zero. What do the other guys think? I am open to this. Between Cool and Sub-Zero, where are you feeling?
I think Sub-Zero. I think they're really cool, and I really like what they did with the rework. I think as soon as they released the models and they reworked them, I bought them. I think they're really, really cool.
Okay.
I'm happy with that. Sub-Zero, yeah. I think the beer balls kind of tipped me over, actually. I forgot. Yeah, beer balls are good.
Well, I think slightly against my better judgment. I think if this was solely my own opinions, they'd go in Cool. I think they are just scraping over the line into Sub-Zero. I'm not sure they're definitely not as cool as Elven Union. I'm not sure they're even quite as cool as Chaos Dwarves. I did find a point from the chat quite persuasive that now that Dwarves are completely in the bin as the unloved X team that they actually are, I think Norse are the cooler of the all block teams. So if you want that, I think it's the cool way of doing it. And they were never overpowered. They always had such huge limits. They still do. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. They go in Sub-Zero, but I think they scrape in. They should count themselves lucky, and they should check their homework twice next time, because that would be the cool thing to do. Okay, I think we've warmed up, and people that have stuck with us this long, we need to keep them going. We need to make them believe there's an end in sight. Let's deal with the current Belle de Jour, the most beautiful thing. Surely the coolest team in Blood Bowl right now, because everyone's talking about it and everyone's playing it. Do I just not need to talk about it? I can just pop High Elves straight into Sub-Zero, surely.
I probably wouldn't put them there. Despite them being one of my favorite races, I don't think they belong in Sub-Zero. And the reason being is that the design philosophy, I quite like the idea of the Dragon Princes.
Dragon Princes are cool as fuck.
Their ego is massive. Of course they're going to have my ball.
Just think Jimmy Fantastic on a Blood Bowl field. That's...
Pretty much, yes. Yes. I will say the White Lions, I disagree with them having claw. I think...
What's wrong with one of the elf teams being the most claw-wielding team in Blood Bowl right now?
Well, they're elves. They're not supposed to be murdering teams. They're supposed to be doing finesse plays.
They come with wrestle.
Elegant. Yeah, but claw. Why on an elf team?
I saw them outbash a corn team with the Bloodspawn with block, and all the big guys had block. And then I looked at they were sitting next to me, and then there was like 3 dead big guys. The Bloodspawn was dead, and the High Elf team was fully intact. It was like, yeah, maybe this is a bit good. It's not very cool, that, is it? The guy who turns up with all the strength and all the block and all the mighty blow and the claw, well, 1 claw, and then just gets banged out. Not cool.
The last tournament I played, I played against Orcs in the last round, and I made 3 casualties in the first half, and he didn't scratch me. Like that's not cool. I'm an elf team. It's supposed to be the inverse.
But you're the armored elves. That's the whole point of High Elves now. And again, it's worth mentioning that basically someone listened to my pleas and did to elves what I'd always called for, but at times in inappropriate and negative ways. So we now have, the super movable, non-durable elf team in Pro Elves. We have Wood Elves not being touched, but slightly back to their best with the sprint catchers. We have tricksy dark elves that now need to use assassins, and we have armoured high elves that are haughty and have high armour. But they also have high agility still, or low agility, because all the numbers are crazy. And they also have high move, and they can one turn, as well as having claw. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? To have a team with all of those things, isn't that cool?
I don't think so. I genuinely believe a team that can do everything is uninteractive. It just creates more feel bad moments in an already feel bad game at times. If you're intentionally designing teams like this, you're doing something wrong for the game. I think the idea behind the White Lions is good. I disagree with them having claw. They should not have claw.
I have two things, and it's not even the White Lion. So two things. One, I stand by what I said last time, which is that I think that Dark Elves are cooler. So I think I would feel strongly that
we've already
High Elves are
established
definitely
long
not
ago that you're completely
Sub-Zero.
wrong in that opinion. I think it's sweet that you're still defending it.
I still think the Dark Elves are cooler. I think that they have way more interesting pieces. But number two, steady footing. It's not cool.
Steady footing isn't cool. We've long established that. Steady footing is deeply uncool. But, I mean, armoured elves dashing around with their claws. Suddenly the strong teams have to fear an elf team. They've got a natural one-turner. If they do the pushes right, move 8's lovely for one-turning. You don't really need more than that. It's great.
I genuinely think they're the most boring of the elves, honestly.
Yeah, they are.
They're
The team,
just like elves.
the team that has everything. How can that be cool? That's like the super popular boy at school with all the hair and the girlfriends and all the money and the wonderful life. He was probably cool, but everyone hated him.
Yeah, I was.
Right.
Oh, sorry, we're not.
Yeah. So no, that's not cool. We can't have that. And the other thing is shorts. Right. They're not good. They don't look good. They are awful.
Cool.
There's a lot of knees, isn't there?
Uncool shorts.
Yeah.
There is, and it doesn't suit them. But there are some saving graces. The sculpts on the Dragon Princes, and they look like the great kind of fantasy miniatures from when I was playing. So that is cool. But they're not as cool as the Dark Elf team. I agree with Hex on that. At least Hex have all at least the Witch Elves have got all the finesse plays and all the fun stuff. They're tepid, maybe even uncool with the you're going to turn up and kill my whole team with an elf team. That's pretty uncool. I don't know. So for me, it's tepid uncool. I'd be happy in between them.
Wow, I wouldn't expect to be the lone voice saying that these are the coolest elves. It used to never be in question. What's the coolest team in Blood Bowl? Well, obviously it's high elves, because they're elves, but they're not very good, and no one loves them, and all the other elves are better, or have a more interesting shtick. And that all changed, so surely they got more interesting and even cooler by now having some cool sculpts, some cool pieces, and some cool things they can do. Hargrim, surely you love playing the high elves, though. Even if they are a bit dangerous, surely it's cool to play them.
I always enjoyed playing the old high elves. I found them to be probably the more difficult end of the elf teams because they didn't really have an identity. They just had bog standard blitzers, bog standard catchers, bog standard thrower. Well, the thrower was a bit unique, but it was quite fun back then. But now I think after this year, I'm going to put my high elves on the shelf for a while and say I am not enjoying this as much as I thought I would. Because it doesn't feel great to be able to do everything and do everything well. That's problematic for me.
They're not.
I'm going to say they're
fast.
uncool.
Ooh.
I'm going to say they're uncool.
Ooh. Hex, surely we're looking at the bottom half of the graph for the ever cool high elves.
I mean, I would have put them in tepid, personally. I still think they're reasonably cool, but I don't think they're that cool, and I don't think they're as cool as Dark Elves. I would have, if you'd asked me, and it was my choice completely, I would have put them in tepid. I think they're fine. I think they are the new kids on the block, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot of cool stuff about them. I really do. I love the Dragon Princes. I love the sculpts. I love that high elves are back and they're interesting. I even I think it's quite cool that they're good now. That's kind of cool. I think it's a cool idea to have an armoured elf team. but I do think these are slightly overtuned. And I mean, I know Jimmy Fantastic loves them more than he loves his own mother. But he's in the chat, and he's just made a point that I think is relevant. He's just said, it obviously is. This is for random guys saying Cristiano Ronaldo isn't cool. And the big problem with that is that I think we can all, no matter how much you know about football, agree that Cristiano Ronaldo, wonderfully gifted footballer as he is, an incredibly hard-working footballer, he's not cool, is he? He's a bit of a dick. So that, to me, costs them. They were going to go in tepid. But I'm afraid youth has spoken, and I can't but agree. I think they're great. I love them. I think they're interesting. I love what they did with them. And it's going to make an enemy of Jimmy Fantastic, so Reddit will love that. I've hurt myself by doing it. I met my good friend K-Foot playing High Elves when he was in the White Owl League on Fumble. And we both love the High Elves, and I still do. But I just don't think they're cool right now. I think they're a bit too good. I think they're the flavour of the month. I think they're... Do you know what they reminded me of? As we were talking about how good they were and how, the cool boy at school, and I disagree, the cool boy at school was fine. I think they're a bit Homelander. I think they're sort of flattering to deceive as this wonderful, great hope for elving. And actually they're busy just cutting people up with their claws and embarrassing them with their one-turns and mocking them with their steady footing. And I don't think any of those are particularly cool dynamics. So I hate myself for doing it, but, I've lived with myself for many years, and I'm very good at forgiving myself. But for now, unless I just can't live with it by the end of this podcast, High Elves are going in uncool. And I'm as shocked as possibly the listenership is that seems to be where they belong. Wow. High Elves deemed uncool, and Hexbaron not entirely and totally wrong. Who would have guessed it? Let's cheer ourselves up. Let's talk about something that is undeniably cool. We're all going to be able to say nice things, surely, about vampires. Vampires, what's not to love? The sculpts are fantastic. Noted painter and lovely human James, or Hames, as some people call him, weirdly long story, painted some vampires for me. I absolutely loved them. Loved playing them in Season 2. Haven't touched them in Season 3. No idea why. But they just haven't appealed to me as much as Season 3. But even though they're not as good as they were, they're still cool as hell, aren't they? They're vampires. And I remember when vampires were just shit and you laughed at people coaching them. And it was things people did at the very end of getting their 24 races or whatever it was back then. Because everyone sort of built up to it knowing it would be utterly miserable. And at least they're not that now. And surely that's cool. Surely they're cool. Breakmonker, vampires are cool.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think they're actually Sub-Zero, actually. And here's why. Bats are like... Batman's cool. Vampires are cool. Bats are cool. I think that works.
Batman is cool. Superman deeply
cloaks.
Uncool.
There's a lot of cloaks, and that's pretty cool as well.
Cloaks are cool.
Yeah, and then playing on a field with your own lunch as well at the same time. That's also pretty cool. So yeah, they're awesome, and the lore's great as well behind them. Which and I think the team matches the lore, that the mechanics of the game. You really feel like you're interacting. You can get into that theme as well. So yeah, absolute Sub-Zero. No doubt about it.
I mean, I'm not saying I won't coach them now that they've been nerfed slightly. I think the changes were interesting and needed. Whether they've changed them too far and they might need a tweak back, who knows? But I wasn't against it. I still think they're cool to look at, cool to face, cool to play, though. So I do think they're up towards that end. Hex, you're nodding a lot. Voice that with some opinions.
I agree. I think that they're a really interesting team. They play in an interesting way. I think they were too strong in the previous rules. I think that by the end of it, when people worked them out, coaches like Torquemada knew how to play vampires, and they were pretty strong. But with the switch to how the Hypnogaze works, I think it's interesting. I think it's different. I think it's a really interesting dynamic. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't see them crushing tournaments and winning 5-0 every game anymore. So I think we're over that. I think we're over the stupid sexy vampire thing from the noughties or 2012. I think that's gone. And I agree. I really like the sculpts. I think they're really nice. I think cool or Sub-Zero personally.
Wow, Hargrim.
vampires are inherently cool. I will say they suffer a bit from bad rules designs, but that has nothing to do with vampires as a thing. The idea behind vampires is great. A lot of the teams, the sculpts out there are absolutely amazing. I have the Grebo Strigoi vampire team, which is really, really cool. Absolute Sub-Zero for me.
I think for me in season 2, I would have been happy to say tepid, possibly cool. Excuse me, but we're further away from all that Twilight nonsense, so we can start to forget sparkling vampires that never bite people. And we can start to just look at vampires as they've always been pretty cool, despite their brief and horrific stay in the mainstay of the current culture. Yeah, I think in season 2 they'd have struggled to get higher than cool for sure, because they were just a bit too good, and you can't be that good and be uber cool really, unless there's a really special reason to counter it. But I think right now that they've got more interesting, and that we might see some Vargeist play, and they're not dominating to the level they were, I think that means they absolutely belong in Sub-Zero. I've got no problem
to add
with
to that, I think the Vargeist is really cool. I think
Yeah.
it's an unloved, underloved big guy. I think it's a really interesting, fun one that I wish we saw more of.
Yep. So there we are. We're already getting a lot of hate in chat, particularly from a couple of known high elf lovers. But I'm happy with where they've gone. I can justify it. I don't think they're cool. I think they're very good. I think they're fun. I like the redesigned concept, but I just don't think it's cool. I think it's too good. There's too many options. They can be a ruin to every other type of team, pretty much. Only their lack of dodge holds them back, and of course in NAF style that's very counterable. What do we got left to go? I tell you what, let's have a look at Tomb Kings. They are old and they are dusty, but they did have a cat in the new models, and cats are very, very cool, so that gives them some points. They certainly got a little more interesting, but just not that much more interesting. Are they cool though, Khemri? Let's start off with Hex. What do you think?
I mean, I'm pretty medium on Tomb Kings. I think as a theme, I quite like them. I quite like the way they look. I quite like the way they feel. Once again, the asymmetric style, I quite like it, but they're not super exciting.
They're not,
Like,
are they?
I never sit down. I never look at them, and I'm like, oh, I really want to play some Khemri. They're kind of slow. They shamble up the pitch, trying to punch stuff. They're definitely not Elon Musk, but they're definitely not Sub-Zero.
Muppet Pac-Man's just made a lovely point in the chat, which is that Secure the Ball helps them a lot. And unlike Argue the POW, which can get in the bin, I do think Secure the Ball is quite a cool addition. We all thought it was a bit silly when just some things just could never pick the ball up when under absolutely no pressure, and it's literally their job. So anything that makes that a little better for some of the teams that are shit at it, I think is good. And the fact that it stops them dead in their tracks, meaning if they collect in the backfield, they're still not, they haven't managed to then run away with it into a nice secure cage. It still does give some problems. I thought it was a well-designed addition. I really liked it.
I think that passing is generally considered not very cool, but Khemri passing plays,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Instantly cool. Unless you're using those 2 stars that both come with nerves of steel and do it on a 3+, but that's almost not Khemri. Breakmonker, where are you on Khemri?
I think just kind of a bit down the middle. I think they're quite fun to play. They're a challenge. They pose a lot of problems, but that doesn't make them cool. I think they're fairly well designed, and I think they're not great for new coaches as well. People are going to pick up that new box now and go, "Oh, I've got these big strong guys," and just lose horrifically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little bit uncool. I like the theme, the kind of Egyptian-y, Aztec-y kind of crossover thing. I like that. It's nice. And it's fairly strong, and the miniatures are great with them as well. I think that the new miniatures are actually really beautiful.
Yes.
But yeah, they don't stand out. They don't jump off the page at me either. So I think just tepid. They're just tepid.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any reason not to put them there. Hargrim, can you come up with any?
Nope, none at all. I
There we are.
agree with everything that's been said.
Yeah, a nice simple one. They're not uncool, are they? They're kind of interesting.
No.
They're kind of fun. They've got a theme. You're never going to be terrified of facing them, but they can always get things done. The new models are great. The new design is underwhelming, but fine. And that's kind of everything about Tomb Kings. They're fine. they're still fine. They belong. They're okay. They're absolutely just bog standard tepid, aren't they? Just everything you can ever say about them. They're your mate John. You know, they're dependable but not exciting. You know, if you call him up, he'll try and come round if he's free. He's not giving up a day's work for it, but, you know, he'll bring his van if he can. That's Kemry. There's someone you can sort of vaguely rely on, but they're never going to, they're never going to take you out and show you the light fantastic. They are, at the end of the day, just Kemry. Right, we've got 40 minutes left and only 6 teams, and then one that isn't a team. Let's do a nice, easy one. Let's cheer up the elf coaches, having disappointed them with our view on high elves. Let's talk about wood elves. Cool since time immemorial, and now they've got the sprint back on the catchers. I know a lot of happy wood elf coaches. They're saying, yeah, wood elves are back, they're fine. Surely that's pretty cool. Endlessly top of the meta and pretty much up there once again. What's not to love?
I love the war dancers. They're great fun.
Yeah.
They're just, the whole game just revolves around where are those 2 pieces the whole game, and they evoke. I love the mohawks. I think they're pretty cool. They are very good as well, but they do explode. So they're balanced in that regard as well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think they're cool. They're cool.
Hargrim?
I'm a bit torn with wood elves, because on one hand I think they're quite cool, but on the other hand I find them quite dull to play against, because you know exactly what's going to happen. You're either going to demolish the team or you're going to lose 3-0. Like there's very rarely a middle.
Yeah.
Because of the strength of the war dancers. I'm probably going to say that they're tepid, because whenever I play someone who's on wood elves, I'm not thrilled, but I'm also not sad that I'm playing against wood elves. I'm just okay. It's a wood elf game. We'll see where it goes.
I mean, I kind of feel they're topping the meta for so long sort of limits them a bit in how cool that is. But I do think dancers are super cool. I do think having a treeman is cool for an elf team. I do think the fact they can explode, that anything has a chance against them, though most things will lose, but they still have a chance against them. I think that's kind of cool. Hex, where are you with the woodies?
I think trees are cool. I think the war dancers are pretty cool. They're pretty good. But I think a bit like Amazons, I think people play them to do really well. I'm not sure that's cool.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong there. There are a lot of try-hardy wood elves out there.
Yeah, like they've got some interest. I mean, I hate the GW sculpts, but there's enough third-party teams out there that are really good that I'm not that fussed. I'm tepid. Like, I think that I've never sat down against a coach and gone, "Oh, wood elves, yeah, that's really cool." You don't see that very often because you see enough wood elves.
Not in London. People seem very wood elf averse in London. I kind of agree. They're sort of like Amazons, but not as bad. Somehow, despite people that want to win desperately being playing wood elves even longer than they've been playing Amazons, somehow they hang in there being not quite as desperate and needy and clingy. I'm just not sure that we can make them cool. Very good point just been made by BB Jock in chat that dancers are OP. And I think that's true. They are possibly the most OP piece in Blood Bowl. And when you talk about the best pieces in Blood Bowl, you know, they're right up there with werewolves and bulls, centaurs and gutter runners, which are so ridiculously cheap. The thing is that somehow dancers, despite everyone loving kicking them in the face and hoping they die, somehow, despite being so OP, I'm still quite happy to go, yeah, I still think they're quite cool. So they somehow survive that incredible overpoweredness to still be kind of cool. And that's impressive to me, because very few things can do that. I mean, I'm feeling very tepid about them, I have to say. I don't think they're as cool as Dark Elves right now. I do think they're cooler than High Elves. I think, yeah, I just think the very goodness of High Elves in so many ways is going to hold them back. I think even though they are back, baby, I think Wood Elves are pretty tepid in terms of their coolness, because they're just a bit sweaty tryhards, and that isn't cool. Now, speaking of things that really aren't cool, surely everyone can just agree that we have found another Elon Musk if we talk about underworld denizens.
Yep. Straight into Elon Musk here.
Elon.
Yep.
Get him out.
Anyone going to bother defending or explaining?
No.
No need.
Do we
to
need
push
to?
yourself.
Briefly explaining, I think they played Blood Bowl in a very unfun way. I think they're entirely built around running away, fouling you, and then one turning, and then I think in theory they're cool with all their positionals, and that's kind of interesting and fun, but just not cool. And I think that people don't play them because they don't think they're cool.
Yeah, I think this one can be nice and quick. We can just drop them in Elon Musk. I'm not going to try and defend them. I'm not going to play devil's avocado on something as deeply and abidingly uncool as Underwhelm. I don't care that you can do things with them that are good. That's not relevant here. I don't care that the basic idea of them is kind of cool. You know, a bit of a rat team, a bit of a goblin team, some ridiculous snotlings. Yeah, we've seen how uncool snotlings are when you've got loads of them. Do you know what's cooler than a bit of a goblin team? All of one. And Skaven aren't particularly cool in and of themselves. In fact, they are uncool. So having half of uncool still makes you kind of uncool. And I don't think anyone's ever had a fun game against Underwhelm. You either destroy them or they snipe bits in one turn, and I don't find that cool, even if it's effective. So they are where they belong. They're Elon Musk. We need waste no more of our precious breath on it, nor you your lovely ears. That is where they belong. At the very end of this, we may crown a least cool and most cool. And I think they may even be in with a shout of that. Let's see how we go. There's not many left now. Let's do something that's going to be interestingly different because it's interestingly terrible at Blood Bowl. But that's not necessarily relevant. How cool are Khorne? Blood for the Blood God, indeed.
I think
wow,
Khorne are
three
pretty cool.
really... I usually look for a facial expression that says, I want to talk about this. We had one guy blowing lips and looking specifically away. Another one looking down with a look on his face that I can only describe as mild disgust at having to talk about this. And Hargrim, who normally is so reliable, just decided to try and fade into his chair. But bless him, he did try and speak. Let's hear what he has to say about Khorne.
I think Khorne are really, really cool. Sure, they're terrible at Blood Bowl, which makes them actually a little bit more cooler, but they've really hit the essence of what Khorne is about. They're angry, they just want to hit things. So spamming Frenzy on them, great design choice. The models are really cool as well. I'm less a fan of the GW ones, but I'm not a fan of GW Blood Bowl teams in the first place. But there are some really, really nice third-party producers out there that make some really cool Khorne teams.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put them in Sub-Zero because they're not that cool. But I think Games Workshop have hit it right on the spot with the design choice behind the Khorne team. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, lots of nodding around the group. I think we're...
I'm with you on a lot of that. I think the slight turn down on it is it's a bit murder cult. I don't know how good that is, but you know, if you kind of take that out, you know,
cults are cool.
The theme
right?
is good.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
if it's the
Cults are
theme,
cool,
like,
right?
If you imagined a Khorne team, it fits with what you imagine.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think the only thing that stands out to me is the Pestigore, not Pestigore. It's the Beastman player, the Khorngor. That's it.
Khorngor, yeah.
It's like a little doggy, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that change. I thought Beastman and Khorne, that feels kind of right, but this Khorngor, it's like your pet dog. Like, what is it? The rules are great, but like, I don't know. I didn't want that in the team. It didn't feel right in terms of the theme and is it a cool model? The rules are great, but like, no, it's not. That's not very cool. But I'm kind of with Hargrim overall that the most of the team makes it cool. It's cool, but it's just turned down a little bit from that model or that piece.
I have a huge issue with the fact that their lineman is called a Bloodborne Marauder. I think that's a very weird and strange name. But other than that, I'm really struggling not to see what is uncool about Khorne. My normal rule is that if a thing is too good, it can't be super cool, of course. But I kind of also think that if a thing is super bad. So my real worry, I definitely don't think they can be Sub-Zero because they're almost too shit at Blood Bowl to benefit from many points from being shit at Blood Bowl, if that makes any sense at all. So if they were just a tiny bit better, they'd have all the points for not being great at Blood Bowl. But actually they lose them again for being just so terrible at Blood Bowl. I do like all the pieces. I do like the shtick. I think that works well. I like the fact that they're pretty terrible but can occasionally still do something, so there is a point still in having them. I actually thought I would hate the... Is it called a blood spawn or a spawn of corn?
Blood spawn, yeah.
Blood spawn. I thought I'd hate it coming with just all the good skills. But actually, it's proven to me that whilst it can pop off, it still really usually doesn't. And if we are going to have a team that's almost as dangerous as High Elves, then I do think it should probably be Khorne. So, that position as the second most lethal team behind, obviously, Killer Elves. Something has to be there. Why not Khorne? I think that's kind of cool. I think the theme is fun. I think it's very understandable, very explainable. It's coherent across the team. There's just so much ridiculous amounts of frenzy. I think they went slightly backwards when suddenly the Cornigors had to have other skills because everyone was having other skills. So I think they're now actually a slightly bit too good compared to how they were. But maybe I'll adjust. I'm quite happy just to say that, yeah, I think this is a nice, easy one again, isn't it? We pretty much all agreed that they're cool.
Yep,
they're not Sub-Zero, but they're cool. Yeah, if you're coaching cool. We think that's cool. It's cool of you, and it's cool of them. And someone has to be dangerous that isn't coaching High Elves. All the High Elves coaches have left chat anyway, so we can say what the hell we want about them now. Right, let us move on. We have so few left. Let's turn to Hargrim. Which would you like between Goblins, Old World Alliance, and Shambling Undead?
Let's talk about OWA.
Let's talk about OWA. I think we have to.
They're a bit too good, aren't they?
In the old rules. 2020 edition, I think they were Sub-Zero. I think they were such a cool team. You didn't see them very often. They were really interesting. And like Khorne, they had that feeling of like, you're not going to win loads of games with them, but they're cool and it's cool if you win. But now they're just really good.
I want to point out that in Season 2, Andy Davo used them to beat me in the final of the World Championships on Blood Bowl 3, making them deeply, deeply uncool. But that was then, and I'm completely over it. It doesn't keep me awake at night. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm really, really happy for him. Are they too good now? Because it's now, it's not then, and they got a lot better in Season 3, and they were super fun. And I, like a lot of people, took them to tournaments and won a tournament with them. Ha ha ha. I want to point out I had won a tournament with them under Season 2 when they were shit. So I was doing it back when it was the hipster way of playing Blood Bowl. Are they too good, Breakmonker?
I think that I just want to tap into that. You're absolutely right. Back when they were cool.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were cool.
Yeah, they were.
But they lost it. They lost it because they got all sweaty and good. And then the tree did get slightly worse again, getting nerfed a little bit. But
yeah, do you know what you can do now they've made the tree worse? You take an ogre. Turns out ogres are quite good.
Yeah, ogres are good. Ogres are good, but they were for like the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
This try-hard, sweaty team.
Quite uncool.
Yeah, I don't know. That just they're not even tepid. They're not tepid, and yeah, just uncool, straight uncool, done.
Uncool though, Hex.
I thought they would still be kind of cool. I liked the toolbox aspect of having one catcher and one blitzer and one troll slayer. Like you got a little bit of frenzy, you got a little bit of diving tackle, and then I played them and they were just good at everything. Like normally, what's interesting about these kind of toolbox teams is that you have to be clever about how you play them to make sure you have the right stuff in there. But I've got a move 8 blodger. Oh, whoops! I've slipped and I've accidentally one-turned you. I don't know. I thought they would be at least tepid in the new rules, but maybe they are uncool.
Yeah, I mean I enjoy playing them in the new rules, but I only tend to play them when I'm going to an event as a sweaty tryhard and I want to win. If I'm going to an event to have fun, I will tend to not look at Old World Alliance. I'll look at other rosters. So I do think they can't be that cool if
they fall into the category of Amazons.
Yeah, I kind of think they might be. Hargrim, what do you think?
So I dabbled in the start of the year at an Irish tournament. I dabbled with the OWA. Now this rule pack, for some reason, it was very early in the release of the new edition, so we were still a bit unclear about, certain strengths and weaknesses of different things. So I was allowed to take Skrorg on an OWA team. I did not enjoy a single game that I played. All my opponents were lovely, so I enjoyed the banter aspect of it, but the actual Blood Bowl was just boring. It was just flowchart gameplay, and like Hexbaron said earlier, the whole toolbox thing of things being, you need to know where to put your pieces in the right places, but not any piece. It's specific pieces need to go in specific places. That was great back then in the second season, but now it's just boring.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they are suffering a little from just being overexposed. We've seen them too much. We've seen just too many people taking them at tournaments and doing really well with them. I did think they are the hipster that faded and got old and fat and then joined the government and became the man, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
They are the classic, I remember when you were cool, but now you're like the man. I've got absolutely no hesitation, unless someone feels they can stop me, from dropping them where they belong. I don't think they're Elon Musk level uncool.
No.
I think they're heading that way. I think they're not far off. I think they're at the bottom end.
They get tiered highly enough, and the tree got a little bit of a nerf. That means that they're not like. And the thing is that fundamentally they still play Blood Bowl. Like, you get to play against them. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not Elon Musk.
No, it's not Elon Musk, but I don't think they're cool, and I think people thinking they are wrong. They're kidding themselves. They are pretending, but they are very good at Blood Bowl, and that, I think, if anything, limits them slightly more. I've been putting them off because you all know I love them, and I wanted you all tired so I can easily just cajole you into my will. Goblins are cool as fuck, aren't they? Isn't that just nice and easy?
I have one counter argument. I love the idea behind secret weapons, but I also dislike it because they have all of the bombs and the chainsaw, and the chainsaw got so much better now because it doesn't give modifiers.
No, it can dodge.
Dodges. I find it
it can't dodge, but it can dodge, if you see what I mean.
I find it a bit too volatile for the game that I enjoy. And I still think goblins are really, really cool. I just don't think they're Sub-Zero.
But goblins are like...
of the way this...
If halflings were cool, they'd be goblins. That's...
Halflings are still cooler.
Oh, that's hate speech. That might cost you getting invited on next time I think I want someone on and you're available. That's hurtful. I'm offended. I'm genuinely offended. So sorry out there. I just want to apologise to the listeners. Hargrim obviously speaks for himself and he's foreign. So that's why he comes out with some of these crazy and at times very offensive things. If I don't remember to bleep it in the edit, then my apologies that you had to hear that. Obviously, no one actually thinks that halflings are cooler than goblins. That would just be absurd. Breakmonker.
Goblins are so cool. They're the height is cool. They've got chainsaws, they've got bombs, they've got guys who swoop in the air and get thrown everywhere. Also, shout out to Greenskin Phil and Yudlager, who basically mained the goblins for a long time and
Duffins.
Duffins, I don't know who Duffins is, but shout out to him. To take a race that's designed to lose and take him as a main and then do like famously well with them. So those two guys are cool. The race is cool. They're Sub-Zero.
Yeah, shout out Duffins, another goblin main like Yud from the South Coast. Played hundreds of games with goblins. I think that they are way cooler than I think they're cooler than halflings. Really interesting things. I think they have chainsaws and bombs and all kinds of fun stuff. I think that playing.
But saying they're cooler than halflings is just saying like the daytime is often lighter than night. It's not a contentious opinion.
I think that playing against 5 players is not very cool. Whether it's your opponent has fallen apart and they now only have 5 goblins left, or you're playing goblins and you've deleted their whole team accidentally. I think that I'm not sure they're Sub-Zero, but I think they're very cool.
The problem I have with them being Sub-Zero is I loved the Doom Diver. I loved that someone apparently at the World Cup popularised him running halfway down the field and then the troll walks up to him, throws him and he lands. Guaranteed touchdown. I loved it. I thought that was super fun for them and interesting. And then they stopped it and they made it go away and I was sad. And then they brought back the Doom Diver and he was rubbish. I think now he's possibly a bit too good again. And goblins really do have all the toys again. Now that's kind of great. They did get nerfed beyond belief. Every time Games Workshop touched the rules, they just made sure there was something in there to just screw goblins a bit more. And for about 6 years, it seemed, every single update, goblins just got hurt and hurt again. And luckily, eventually, they wised up and they went to a Blood Bowl Team Refuge Centre, and they've got away from the bad rule set designer. And they're now with a much nicer rule set designer that treats them well. But possibly too well. Possibly they're still making up for all those years of abuse of the goblins. A tortured and horrific analogy, but you see where I'm going with it. I think they're cool. I think they're cooler than halflings. If someone turns up with and they say, "Oh, I'm coaching Stunty," you sort of go, "Oh God, don't let it be snotlings." Then you go, "Oh, I bet it's halflings with bloody griff or something ridiculous," or I forget the elf star that they now use instead, who's AG1 plus because of course Jordell, yeah.
Oh, that one. Eldrill's the one.
And you think, oh, it's going to be gnomes though, isn't it? And I'm going to have to spend the whole game thinking that even though it's on the floor, it can still run 18 spaces because of jump up, and then it can wrestle me. And then it turns out they're coaching goblins, and you go, oh, that'd be cool.
Or they're coaching ogres, and you think, that's cool too.
Yeah, ogres. I mean, I'm quite fine to say that I think ogres are cool. I think goblins are on the same sort of level. You know what they can do to you. I mean, we've all seen it done. Even to dwarf teams. I've seen goblins rip dwarf teams apart in 3 turns. It can happen. It's really unlikely. And this was old dwarf teams when they all had tackle. But I don't think they're good enough that their sort of ability is going to cost them points. Unlike Khorne, which they're even worse than statistically, they're stunties. They're supposed to be shit. So they're not losing points again for being shit. I just think that with I kind of do see Hargrim's point a little bit, much as I hate to do so. That with chainsaws dodging now, that's not really the point of a chainsaw, is to dodge into your cage and kill your ball carrier. It should be fouling or picking off lone stragglers, or ideally put into a war dancer's face, obviously, repeatedly, until the war dancer is no more. And I do think the Doom Diver might be a little overtuned now. And the fact you can throw it up with a bomber, say, to the Doom Diver, who can then, stunty dodge despite his wings. I just think it stops them going into Sub-Zero. So much as I love them, and much as I would love to see them up there, I think they're cool and no more. Now, there's only one race left, and I think this is emblematic of the fact that it's last, as to where it's going to end up on the Cool Wall, which I'm not showing for now. It will come up back at the end, but I want there to be some surprise to give you a chance to forget it, those of you that are watching visually. And then we'll briefly recap and perhaps look at what's the best and the very worst on here. But the very last race we need to talk about is, of course, Shambling Undead. Now, when Season 3 dropped, I thought, wow, they've done dwarves dirty. And halflings don't get access to dirty player when goblins do. And Skaven might be dead. Hooray! Turns out they're not dead, but still, it was a fun few weeks. And what I didn't sort of realise, and what I don't think people picked up on quite quick enough, was just how screwed Undead are. Always a team that's been up at the top of the rankings, always tier 1 since time immemorial. Always, if you wanted a solid bash team that could also score, a good hybrid team, you said, oh, try Undead. You've got your strong mummies, you've got your wights, you've got plenty of ghouls, you can move the ball, but you've got disposable zombies that can foul or just be a wall. And they didn't change very much. They lost 2 ghouls. And they gained lots of things. I mean, the mummies didn't change. But the zombies have got eye gouge. So that's
a skill that no one uses.
And the whites got tackle. So, yeah, they got done dirty. It turns out that losing 2 ghouls, even if the 2 remaining ones have regen, and the zombies can eye gouge for reasons that can't be explained to me, it turns out they're a bit shit now. And almost like dwarves, I'm a bit sad for them. It's not that it's made them cooler, the fact they're not as competitive. It's just made them a bit sad.
But they're not uncool. They're not uncool.
Aren't they?
They're not uncool. But they're not cool either anymore. I mean, they weren't even that cool to begin with. I think they just sit in that tepid zone of being nerfed. They're a bit like, all right, they're not very good anymore, but they're not like,
I mean, they're not shit.
They're not shit.
Not...
They've gone from tepid.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
tepid.
maybe
I agree.
so.
The result is that they've just been tiered down in tournaments slightly, and they get one or two. Actually, you get an extra block zombie or something, and you're like, okay, fine. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not bad. They're not like gonna win loads of tournaments. Like old Shambling Undead were really good, but yeah, they're just fine. They're kind of boring with all the zombies, but they're not. That's not bad.
Do we need? Do undead need another pass? Do they need something? Because right now, everyone I know is taking necro over undead, unless there's a really good reason not to. Like someone will punch you in the face if you turn up with necro. But it has to be that sort of good, because no one's excited about coaching undead. The only person that's mentioned undead to me was someone that hadn't played season 3 yet, and I just had to tell them, you do know undead are a bit shit now, and they went, oh no, I hadn't heard. So I still think there's that lingering, oh, undead are solid. I'm just not sure they are anymore. I think the game's moved beyond their current build. And that's kind of uncool, but it's not deeply uncool, is it? It's just it's not cool that they're a race sort of out of time with the current season.
It's just your garden variety necromancy. It's just there's nothing interesting going on for them anymore. Like before, they had 4 ghouls and they had the 2 wights and the 2 mummies. They were a bit interesting at least. Now they're just, what have they got? They don't really have anything going for them anymore.
Mummy's a strength 5 with no nega trait.
Yeah.
It's movement 3.
Yeah, movement 3. The whites are like human blitzers, but slightly slower. You can take 4 mighty blow on your team and try and pitch clear your opponent, but I don't know. It's not thrilling.
Just almost everything you can think of doing with them. There's a team that does it better and more interestingly, isn't there?
Yeah, like the mummy's outclassed by the biggin now, right? The biggin with all these 1,000 skills and basically does the same role except bigger, better. And orcs are still only tepid, right? So they're tepid. They're just tepid.
I don't think they're uncool. I think they're tepid.
Absolutely agree. Just tepid.
I mean, I kind of want to put them in uncool just because of how sad I feel for undead coaches and for undead in general. And I want that to be marked by something that says, look, this is what you did to them.
Sadness isn't particularly cool.
No, it isn't particularly cool.
Yeah,
Sadness is quite uncool. That's why I kind of wanted to put them uncool. Yeah, fuck you all. They're going uncool just because I feel so sad about them. I know what you mean about them being really tepid. But ultimately, it's my cool wall. It's the back end of episode 2. Hardly anyone's still listening at this point. They've all, they've finished their commute. They're having a sandwich. They're opening their emails. This is the bit that no one listens to anyway, so I can do what I want and no one's going to mind. I'm afraid Shambling Undead, like High Elves, but for entirely different reasons, are uncool. Now, that's it. We've done every race in Blood Bowl. We're finished. Hurrah.
Slan are very cool.
There's only one race left to talk about, which isn't a real race. So we could talk about, Space Marines, or we could talk about Vermeer coming to Blood Bowl. There's a deep cut for those of you that know your lore. Or I suppose we could talk about other things that don't exist and aren't real and aren't in the game of Blood Bowl. So we could talk about Slan. So let's talk about Slan.
I think there's some really strong camps here, obviously. And
yeah.
PC, I think I'm in yours on this one.
Go on then, start me off.
I think you've talked about it in previous episodes, but the story I kind of lock into is fairly experienced coach, or at least like a coach who's played 100 games or something, sits down with Slan and plays someone relatively new and just ruins their day. They just go, oh, what they can. I played a guy with Wood Elves on Saturday, and he wasn't quite familiar with how leap worked just on the War Dancer.
Well, why should he be?
And because it's quite rare, isn't
really
it?
Niche.
And then I sort of said, and I explained it, and I even kind of did a diagram with the models. It's like, right, that's a 3, that's a 3, that's a 4, that's a 5. And you just got to be worried that I'm going to jump into your cage. And I took him through it, and he was like, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. I was like, okay, this guy probably, he's not seen it before, so that's a thing. And the whole team having that, and the fact that it could probably ruin someone's day, just like 2 hours of their life.
And if you're not very comfortable with it, you don't know how to build shapes that are making it even slightly harder than the incredibly easy thing it already is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's loads of positives to him as well, and they're great fun to coach as well. but just that part of it just makes them Elon Musk for me. And because what we want to do is support people coming into the game, enjoying the game, and not suddenly getting splattered by some team that they've never seen or don't understand.
Absolutely.
So I think Elon Musk.
I'm on record as saying that they should have died. We should have let them go.
I
Because I think it will help Games Workshop bring in a team that replaces them if they know that's a dynamic that we'll pay money for. We might get, for example, some hopping squigs on a Night Goblin team, just to spitball something that definitely should be in Blood Bowl rather than something that shouldn't. So I think we should have all been big boys, been grown up and said, that one toy on my shelves doesn't need to be part of this game anymore. It's hundreds of years ago. We've now made up loads of stuff about them in the bin. But we collectively didn't.
I think there's a time and a place for them. I think, as Breakmonker said, I think turning up to your local event and finding a coach who's never seen them in their life and having to play against them is not very cool.
It's not
but
cool. That isn't
I think taking them to big events that are well established, where you have this expectation that people kind of know what's going on. I think that that as a team they're kind of fun and different. I think the idea of they're just human linemen with leap is kind of cool. I think that Frogs from Space is pretty cool. I think there's some really nice third party.
But that's why they don't exist and they're not real, is because we're not allowed Frogs from Space. That was ages ago, and now it didn't ever happen, it turned out.
But I actually as cool. I think that they are really cool, but I also don't think they should exist in the game. But I still think they're really cool. But I don't think they should exist.
Hargrim.
I'm going to go on record and say this right now. Slan need to be removed. And it is not because of game design reasons. It is exactly as you said earlier, PC, in that the NAF should not be involved in creating and keeping teams.
Yes.
That should be the job of Games Workshop.
Yes.
However, frogs are pretty cool. I really like a good frog. Slan, however, I'm not a fan. I used to really like them back when they were, a bit bad, but also a bit good. They were sort of that in the middle spot.
Absolutely.
But I just now when you can do multiple pogos a turn, I don't no. That's just no.
And every player can do multiple pogos a turn.
Yeah.
There's no need to move ever again as Slan.
I don't think the team should exist. Plain and simple.
Absolutely.
Therefore, I propose we create a new tier. Just call it delete them.
Below even Elon Musk, in your view.
Yes.
At least they're not then Elon Musk, so I'll be happy for that.
If there was a happy place where they could introduce something like you're saying, like the Squig Hopper or something team, where then that sits in season 4 book, and they go, oh, there's this new team, and it functions the same, and then everyone buys it because it's the new best race, and everyone then understands it because it's in the book. That's a different thing, than it is right now. People might still struggle with it and all the rest of it, but then it's kind of there and it's part of the game and people get it. But
again, this is
right now, Slan need deleted.
This is a greatest hits episode in some ways because it's the same old rant from me. You know what I think about Slan. They shouldn't be in the game. I do worry about the new player experience suddenly having to face this team that doesn't exist, that they've no rule set on. I do think that's hellish. I do think we as a community should have been grown up enough to just put them behind us. And how do I explain to John that he can't bring his Space Marine team because everyone else is bringing Slan and they don't exist, so why can't I bring my team? So I think that's all sorts of problems, and I really do worry about new players in the game. It's a huge issue for me. Their onboarding and learning Blood Bowl is so tough as it is, so I do think Slan's a real barrier there. Hargrim.
Much like having to explain what my dice mean. Like if you're bringing specific dice to a tournament and you have to explain what each symbol means, that's a problem.
Are you likening Slan to the Pitch Invaders block dice? Are you saying they're that bad?
I haven't seen them, so I wouldn't know.
But do you mean the TNT ones?
Yes, Tactics and Theatrics ones, yeah.
Oh, if it's the TNT ones, I've seen them.
It's like you're playing noughts and crosses instead of Blood Bowl. No.
I think the problem with Slan is if I'm sat across a new opponent and usually they need a bit of explaining. But if I have to tell them exactly the strategy that I can implement and say, well, my team can do this where I can jump over your players, then I can jump over your other line of players and pick up the ball and then run off with it because I've been doing a million jumps and it's all dice. It's one of those moments where your opponent is just spectating the game. I don't think that's fun. That's not fun for anyone.
The flip side of that is I had a game, was it at the NAFC? I think it was. And I rolled into someone who had 4 wins on his Flan team. And then he came towards me and he tried to jump his pieces into the cage. And I think a couple made it. And then he realised that I had a 4-point cage with guard on every corner. And you could just see his face fall as the one thing he'd worked out with Slan that had worked for him in every other game. Suddenly he just didn't believe it could work in this game. And he had no other plan. So I thought that was great. And that amused the hell out of me.
As a lizard coach at the moment, and my opponent jumping into my cage on a 3+ and just 2-dying my ball carrier with wrestle strip ball, I think they're not very cool. So
yeah, and they are. I mean, they're deeply toxic to the community. They are horrible for new players to try and understand. Having to explain to a new player why they're facing them, let alone how they exist or where they can get the rules, is complicated and weird. And space frogs that Games Workshop has disavowed and want dead and don't want us playing with. And their Slan are a completely different thing now from a whole different world that they've reinvented. I mean, that's just weird. And the fact they're not real and they don't exist is weird. But I've got some bad news, guys. Which is there's just one undeniable fact, isn't there? Which is that Slan are Sub-Zero. That's just the way it is. Now, they shouldn't exist, don't get me wrong. They shouldn't be in Blood Bowl. And I don't take back anything I've ever said about them being horrific for new players. All of that remains true, and I will go to my grave saying they should be removed from Blood Bowl. But they're leaping space frogs that aren't real, that don't exist, and that Games Workshop want dead. So where else could they possibly be except Sub-Zero? That's cool. That's cool as fuck. That just really genuinely is. So yeah, I Slan are going in Sub-Zero unless, well, even if you strongly object. Feel free to voice your wrongness now if you don't understand how I am so much wiser than you.
Toxic space frogs, Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
I mean, that did feel like a very Jeremy Clarkson moment where he just disagreed with everyone and was obviously wrong, but just he wanted his say, and it's his show, so that's
no.
where
Look,
it's going.
I do agree there should also be a tier called In the Bin, and I'd happily put them there because they should go in the bin. But until they do, they will remain super cool. So that is where they belong. Now, so we have the full chart. Let's just pull it up, and we'll have a quick look at it and see what it means in terms of what is cool in Blood Bowl in 2026. So, we reckon Elon Musk is shared between Underworld denizens, Nurgle, Snotling, and Dwarf. Uncool. We think Uncool contains Amazons, Chaos Chosen, Skaven, Halflings, High Elves, Old World Alliance, and Shambling Undead. Tepid, not really bothering the scorers, we see as Bretonnian, Imperial Nobility, Humans, Lizardmen, Gnomes, Orcs, Tomb Kings, or Wood Elves. We think cool teams, there are plenty in Blood Bowl. So we think it's pretty cool if you're coaching Black Orcs, Chaos Renegades, Dark Elves, Ogres, Necromantic Horror, Khorne, or Goblins. And Sub-Zero, the absolute coolest things in Blood Bowl right now, are Chaos Dwarves, Elven Union, Norse, Vampires, and Slan. So that is what we have decided is cool in Blood Bowl in 2026. And we're not wrong. At least I'm not wrong, but some of the others may be. Let's just check in with them. Breakmonker, what to you is our most egregious error on the cool ball? This is your one chance to make sure at your next tournament someone doesn't come up to you and get you and go, how could you have done this?
I've already said, man, it's Skaven in Tepid,
you're wrong.
right?
You're totally wrong. Okay.
Because they are just so much bratty fun, and I've had some great experiences with them over the years. I can't abide them in Uncool.
The only reason they're not Elon Musk is the little wiggly tails on Blood Bowl 3 is very hypnotic. I like it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing keeping them out of the toilet.
And you said one thing, but I'm going to say two.
Okay.
You're so wrong about Slan, but yeah, that's what.
Like I said, it's a complex, nuanced view. I want them destroyed. I don't think they should exist. But while they do, I can't argue that they're not cool. They're super cool. They're Sub-Zero. They're invisible, negative, doesn't exist space frogs that shouldn't be in the game. And they do horrible things.
In my head.
But they're super cool. Yeah, they are. They're Sub-Zero. Hargrim, What do you want to disavow and say is nothing to do with you?
Halflings. Just going to leave that there. It's halflings.
Yeah, I'm just going to
Most
leave them there.
egregious in putting them in uncool.
Because again, you're
hobbits.
wrong. Yeah,
They're
they're hobbits. Yeah, little hobbitses. Oh, we want to foul you and pretend we're not trying to win. And then we'll laugh when we lose because we're only halflings. But we'll laugh even harder if you lose because, we were only halflings. Yeah, no, horrible. Horrible, and they're where they belong. Hobbitses. Screw them. Hex, what do you want to disavow? What have we got horribly wrong on the wall?
I mean, I have a soft spot for nobility. I wish they were higher. I don't know. I don't know. I quite like what we've come up with. I think it's quite nice, evenly balanced. I mean, I hope that the listeners agree that or know that we didn't plan this or anything. This is completely off the cuff, and I think it's a really nice kind of distribution of teams we've got there. So I think
no prior discussion,
anything,
no pre-agreements.
Yeah.
We went for it live. We thought that would be more fun. I was quite surprised where a couple of things ended, particularly the high elves. But the more we talked about it, the more I realised they're uncool. I'm sorry, but they are. I wish they weren't, but they are. It may have cost me Jimmy Fantastic's follow. Yeah, he is no longer following me on Twitch, but I will live with that. We'll do something that cheers him up in the future. Right, I do think we could just very quickly say what we think might be the very coolest and the very least cool thing in Blood Bowl 2026. So let's start with the easy one. We have 4 contenders for what is the least cool race right now. Between dwarves, which made us all sad. The sad faces when we talked about dwarves was something to behold. Snotlings that we think should get in the bin in their current build. They are really anti-Blood Bowl. Nurgle, no one has a good time either facing them or coaching them. They are anti-fun. And no one even wanted to talk about our distaste for Underworld. So, Hexbaron, where's your vote for the least cool thing?
Tricky. I kind of want to say Underworld, but at the same time, I think it might be Snotlings. I think Snotlings are just no fun for anyone.
Hargrim.
I preached the Snotling hate in the first episode. I stand by it. Remove that bloody team from the game. Snotlings absolutely belong in Elon Musk.
And Breakmonker.
Well, I was with you all with the Snotling hate. There's not much, but we didn't even need to discuss the fact that Underworld denizens were Elon Musk. We were just like, yeah, just get them out there, get them gone. We don't want them. So maybe it's them. Maybe it's them. They're the uncool ones.
I mean, you can take your own judgment, and obviously, if it disagrees with mine, you'll be wrong. Having listened to what everyone has said, I kind of agree. To me, the reaction when we started talking about them was obvious. Underworld are the least cool thing in Blood Bowl right now. They don't even have the pump wagons, which I think slightly save Snotlings. Even though they're a bit too good, they are at least quite fun. There's nothing else fun about Snotlings. There really isn't. Underwhelmed don't even have good sculpts. They don't even have good models. They don't even have a good shtick. Swarming made them too good. Taking away has just made them utterly one-dimensional. Snipe things one turn giggle. It's the least cool thing in Blood Bowl right now. I think they need urgently a new pass and a new way of playing that isn't just so incredibly tedious. So there we are. That has declared it. What is the least cool? But even more difficult is the 4 teams, because one of them isn't real. So the 4 teams I'm going to let you pick for Sub-Zero. I'm going to rule Slan out, fun as it was, and I defend them being there because I'm right. They're not a real team, so they can't be considered the coolest thing in Blood Bowl in 2026 because they just don't exist. So what is the coolest thing in Blood Bowl in 2026? We have decided that is between vampires, Norse, Elven Union, and Chorfs. Breakmonker, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's really hard. It is really hard. I think
it was easy. Anyone could do it, but it takes experts like us.
Oh yeah, obviously. No, I'm going to go with Elven Union. My heart is as an elf coach. I have to defend. I have the edge. It's the Harlequins. They're just the masks and the finesse play that they come with. They're just
score one for the onions.
Cool. They're super cool, and they are the coolest.
Hargrim.
I want to say Norse because of my Scandinavian heritage, but being alternative, I'm gonna say vampires.
Well done for overcoming your inherent bias. I'm too old to do with that. I don't bother. Hexbaron, what appeals to the youth of today?
Well, I feel like if I said Elven Union, it would be going back on my belief that Dark Elves.
But
are the
we've already
coolest elves.
persuaded you were wrong. You know that
But
now.
one of the things
You're
one of the
young
things that we
enough to
said
just
was
change and grow.
one of the things we said was that being bad at Blood Bowl is not very cool. Like being rubbish at Blood Bowl is not very
Being
cool.
rubbish
And
at Blood
actually,
Bowl isn't very cool.
Chaos Dwarves, Norse, and Vampires don't have the best. They're below 45% win rates in the current edition. So maybe it is Elven Union.
Yeah, it turns out you're right. It is Elven Union. So there we are. 3 of us were right. Hargrim, I think vampires are super cool. Perhaps if I'd played them in Season 3, I might agree. But I haven't. And I do think Elven Union are the coolest thing in Blood Bowl right now. Despite, and possibly slightly because of Fumble Rooski. It's so terrible, but it does allow them to do some ridiculous things. Hardly ever. But that's kind of cool. No one wants to see Fonzie jump a shark every episode. Just the once. And that's what Fumble Rooski is for me. It's fully jumping the shark. So there we are. Will the results be published somewhere? I mean, you're going to have to listen to 4 hours of podcast if you want our justifications. But yes, in my Discord, which I will link for once in the YouTube comments and in the Twitch comments, when the highlight goes out live tomorrow, not the actual live stream, but when I cut it into a highlight, it'll be on the comments to that. And also on the podcast. I'm allowed to put comments in. I don't do a lot of podcast reading. I just listen to things. But if you do check the comments out, you will find links both to anything these guys want to drop. So Hargrim always wants to pimp out Peer Bowl, because I don't think anyone really goes. That's a lie. I think it's super fun and loads of people go. So if they want to drop any links, I'll drop them there. I will drop a link to my Discord, which is open house. Anyone's welcome there. And the for completed cool chart, I will wait 24 hours. So once the episodes go live, I will then drop the completed cool chart in the Discord. And I may even put it out on Facebook and on Reddit, where I am, of course, hugely loved. But that was fun. That was the Blood Bowl Cool Wall for 2026. Thank you very much, guys, for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Always a pleasure.
It's been amazing, mate.
Good. 2 weeks
It's been
running.
great to be on.
Now, at the end, I always say, is there anything we haven't talked about? Well, we've talked about so much, I'm not going to do that. Just before we wave and say goodbye in true Teletubbies fashion, is there anything you want to say not related to the Cool Wall about Blood Bowl or your life in general to the 3 or 4 people that are still listening at this point? Starting with Breakmonker.
No, I've really had great fun having this episode. Thank you so much for having us. It's been I've really enjoyed just spitballing and talking absolute shit with you guys. So it's been great. So thanks for having me on. Absolute
shit is what One World, One Blood Bowl absolutely specialises in. So I'm glad you've realised that. Hargrim, anything you want to say to the world of Blood Bowl, both of them that are listening?
Be nice to each other. Remember, there's another human sat across you. When you're playing over the board, be nice to each other.
That's good advice. I could be nicer to people. That's certainly true. When I say, ha 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 ha, what are you going to do now? Please enjoy your final turn. Perhaps I should stop doing that. Hex, anything you want to say to the world of Blood Bowl as we end?
Yeah, a little bit. I was writing my monthly newsletter for our Blood Bowl League and talking about home nations and all the fun I had there. And one of the things I was kind of sort of reminiscing about was actually the Team England pathway stuff. There's a bunch of guys doing some Team England pathway stuff right now. So if you're an English coach who goes to tournaments and listens to podcasts like One World, One Blood Bowl, try and get involved with the Team England pathway stuff. It's not designed for coaches who are going to crush all their tournaments. It's designed for people who just want to get better at Blood Bowl. And I think there's a really lovely community building up around it. So try and find out about some of that. I think it's been a really nice thing that I've kind of seen some of and observed some of, and I know there's a lot going on right now with it. So if you want to get involved, do so.
Yeah, there's been a huge movement in Team England in the last few years. I think slightly started by my friend Carl when he was captain, trying to reach out and get more people involved, get more of the community involved. And from there, I think it's built strength to strength through Wolfin and now Thulian. And I think there's a real community involved behind Team England. I think that's positive for the community and for Blood Bowl. There is, yes, the Team England pathway, so every region has a group of people helping others just try and get genuinely better at Blood Bowl, which, as I'm sure you know, I'm a huge fan of, and do in a variety of ways myself, though I'm not involved with the Team England setup for complex and long reasons. But as well as the Team England pathway, there's Team England, there's Squad England, there's the Team England Juniors, there's Team England X, there's Team England Vegan, and I think a few other variants out there. So there's plenty of ways of getting involved with Team England. However it is that you... I don't think there's a Team England stunty yet, but I'm sure if you suggest it, they will put that together. There's a lot of ways of getting involved with Team England. They're not all about being a sweaty tryhard and trying to sit next to the likes of Purple Goo and Gangster. Some of them are just about playing lots of Blood Bowl with people from your area and trying to get better. And maybe the Team England is a dream that you'll never achieve, but sometimes we can walk down a path without needing to reach the end. The path in itself can be fun. So yeah, I back that. I think that's a good thing to do. 3 of us are off to the Squad Chaos event that is Thrud Ball this weekend. Really looking forward to it. Dirty Northerners, of course, far too tight with their money to come to charity events. So Breakmonker will not be joining us. That was super fun. Thank you for joining me. I've really enjoyed it. I think, as I said at the very start, just a different way of looking at the teams, where we're not just judging, what should be where in a meta or a grid. We're saying actually just different things about them, a different way of looking. And I always think it's fun, wherever you live, to go and look at your house from a hill not that far away. Just take the opposite view to the one you normally take and just see what you learn from that in life. That's it from me. There's the outro. We'll stop there. Do feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're on the YouTube, or just say you hate it, because that helps with the algorithm too. They don't care about that. As long as you're passionate, positive or negative, nobody cares. Let's all wave so I can find it in the edit. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back very soon with episode 79. I don't know what it's about yet. I'm still planning about 4 of them at once. We'll see what comes out of the production line. It'll be at least 2 weeks, and then I do have a holiday in August, so it might even be a longer gap. We'll see how it goes. But there's been plenty in the last few weeks. Thank you for your time and attention. We'll say goodbye. Right, that'll do. Now, I've got to think.